The fifth starter's job was one of just a few roster battles in spring training, and the job was won by a dark horse candidate, A.J. Griffin. Nearly 2 years removed from Tommy John surgery, Griffin came to camp hoping to regain the dominant form that he displayed with the A's when he was one of the American League's best starters. Tonight, he returns to the Major League mound with your Rangers when they meet the Los Angeles Angels next. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T High-Speed Internet. Well, in deference to Albert Hammond, it does rain in Southern California, but fortunately, it is not raining at the Big A right now. There is rain in the forecast, but the Rangers hope to get back on the winning side of things as they take on the Angels in Game 2 of this four-game weekend series. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Greaves, Steve Busby. Delighted you could join us on this Friday night of Ranger baseball. Rangers trying to snap a three-game losing streak, and tonight they turn to their fifth starter for the first time this year, A.J. Griffin. Tom?
Well, if you go back a little ways, Buzz, to 2012 and 2013, A.J. Griffin was a very good starting pitcher for the Oakland A's. In fact, in 2013, he was 14-10 and pitched over 200 innings. He won the competition in spring training. He was a little bit prone to the home run, but in 18 innings, he struck out 19 and only walked 2. He's a guy that throws a lot of strikes, has a good curveball, a good changeup, not a hard thrower, more of a finesse pitcher. Big game for him tonight. I'm sure he's pumped up after not pitching in the big leagues the last 2 years.
Yeah, and A.J. from right down the coast here in San Diego, a lot of friends and family in attendance here tonight. So he is happy to be back out there. Rangers hope for the best from A.J. tonight, and the Rangers look to get back on the winning side of things. Elvis Andrus and company tuning it up against the Angels. We'll have the lineups and the first pitch for you right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today for incredible deals and see why Ford is the best in Texas. Buy AT&T high-speed internet. Get a deal worth talking about. Get high-speed internet from AT&T. And buy Budweiser. And Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Well, a cloudy evening, very comfortable, however. Temperatures in the mid-60s out here, very humid for Southern California, but fortunately the rain is staying away. And Angels on the field. Before we get things started, let's head down and check in with Emily Jones.
Well, Buzz, during this 3-game losing streak for the Rangers, much of the focus has been on the struggles of the bullpen, and rightfully so, but the Ranger bats have also gotten up to a slow start, and they realize that. They do, however, feel like they've had a good approach at the plate, working 15 walks so far, and they said if you start there, good things will come.
Guys gonna throw good baseball, and sometimes you're not gonna get hit. But I think offensively, as a group, we have to continue to work hard. We're having a lot of good at bats, having some walks. So as long as we can create opportunity, we know the big hits they're coming soon.
And as we've seen from this bunch over the last couple of years, definitely no panic in this team, but they sure don't want to get into too deep of a hole like they did last season and have to fight their way out. So one game at a time. Of course, the mentality, as cliche as it sounds, but definitely no pressing in that room as far as the offense is concerned, and the same can be said for the pitching staff as well, Buzz.
Oh, you're right, Em. That's good stuff, and they certainly have a positive outlook on things. We'll see how that translates tonight. Here's Tom with the Southwest Airlines Rangers batting order.
For the Rangers, it'll be Delino DeShields leading off, followed by the right fielder Shin-Soo Choo. Adrian Beltre is third. Prince Fielder is the DH. Mitch Moreland gets the start at first base. Ian Desmond is in left field. Rougned Odor bats seventh, followed by Elvis Andrus, the shortstop, and Robinson Chirinos, the catcher.
Oh, we are set to get underway with Matt Shoemaker on the mound. And Shoemaker, quite a story against the Rangers. He is undefeated in his brief career. 16-game winner a couple of years ago, and he had his problems last year. The ERA almost a 1.5 higher. Here's our scouting report on Shoemaker. Dropped from a 16-game winner in 2014 to a 10-game loser last year. Rangers will try and make sure that downward trend continues. 61 degrees at game time. Humidity up the 75-80% range. Kind of unusual for Southern California, and on towards spring. But nobody out here is complaining about the rain they've been getting. Liner to Shields, taking low and outside, and the count is 2 balls and a strike. Delino still looking for his first hit of 2016. He is 0 for 9, although he does have 3 walks, and he's been hit by a pitch. 3-1. Delino, his first opportunity to face Matt Shoemaker. Gone over the scouting reports, and sure, he looked at a lot of video of Shoemaker to see what he could expect up there, and so far he has the advantage. And a strike on the inside corner. Delino a step and a half toward first base, and Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire, said, "Come on back here, young man."
One thing you don't expect from Shoemaker is a walk. He has very good control.
Shoemaker, a sinking fastball for his primary number 1. Also throws a very good split-fingered pitch and misses low and outside. And Delino DeShields with his 4th walk of the year. That is moving up the ladder in the American League. Take a look at the Angel defense behind Shoemaker tonight. Of course, no defense for a walk, but the outfield tonight has Daniel Nava in left field, Mike Trout in center, Cole Calhoun in right. Simon Choi is the first baseman. Chad Pennington at second tonight. Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, and Yuniel Escobar is at third with Carlos Perez catching. A completely revamped infield when you take Albert Pujols out of there, and you don't have Johnny Giovatella at second base tonight. There goes Delino. The pitch is low, and Perez couldn't grab the handle. And Delino, with the swipe of second base, has himself in scoring position right off the bat.
He didn't waste any time. First pitch, he was gone. Not a real quick move to the plate by Shoemaker, and I'm sure Delano was very well aware of that from scouting reports. Felt if he got a jump, he was going to go. Right off the bat, he did.
Well, the Rangers last night in the first inning able to get a run without the benefit of a hit. Prince Fielder got a sacrifice fly. See if they can manufacture another here tonight. Good butt by Chu. Shoemaker's going to have a tough time. He's not going to have a play, and everybody's safe. On to third goes Delino DeShields, and Shin-Soo Choo could not have walked out in front of home plate down the first base line and put it in any better a spot.
I don't remember Shin-Soo dragging a bunt like that very often. Occasionally he'll try to bunt down the third baseline, but he bunted one that hugged the line. No play for Shoemaker. Great bunt. He's going to move the runner over to third base at the very least, and at the very best, move him over to third and get a base hit himself. And Shoemaker kind of got himself in trouble with that walk a couple of years ago when he won 16 games. He only walked 24 batters in 136 innings. A guy with normally really good control. Got the Rangers' little rally started right here with a walk.
So first and third, nobody out. Here is Fielder. Just a 143 average, but he has 5 RBI. Ball one is low and outside. Prince, as we mentioned, the sacrifice fly in the first inning last night, completing his 5th RBI. He has one home run. That was at home. It was the first Ranger home run of the year, the last game of the opening series against Seattle. And if you chop that up, you could probably get 3 or 4 home runs out of it. You hit that a ton. It's a rifle shot to center. Trout is coming on. He's going to have to play it on a hop. And in to score, Delino DeShields, Prince Fielder with the RBI. And just like that, the Rangers are on top of the Angels 1-0.
Oh, good start for the Rangers. Got the walk, the bunt, and Prince dumps a little ball in front of Mike Trout. Trout wasn't able to get to it. The ball tailing away from Prince down in the lower right-hand part of the strike zone. Hit maybe a little bit off the end of the bat. In any event, he picks up an RBI. The Rangers had a nice little rally going right here.
A walk, 2 base hits, a stolen base. Fielder with his 6th RBI of the year. Fielder now 2 out of 4 in his career against Matt Shoemaker. And here's Adrian Beltre, who has really enjoyed hitting against Matt Shoemaker. Adrian 4 out of 11 in previous matchups. Chu at second, Fielder at first, nobody away in the first. 1 ball, no strikes. Adrian, as we mentioned, turning 37 years old last night. And he has never, for whatever reason, he has never had a very good evening batting on his birthday. He's a 182 lifetime hitter, celebrating the day of his birth. Snap throw to second, Chu back. Pretty quick release by Carlos Perez behind the plate. Didn't have a great pitch to work with him. He's down in the dirt. He got rid of that quickly. 2 balls, no strikes to Adrian. Adrian in last night's game took an 0 for 4. Slider, that's outside. 3 balls and no strikes. Tough pitch to lay off of 2-0 when you're looking fastball probably, and he snaps that slider off that has to look a lot like a fastball. He just missed the outside corner. 3-0 now to Beltre. Now 3-1. Rangers dead last after the first 4 games as far as offense is concerned in the American League. A 156 team ERA, although this first inning is going to help those numbers. A couple of base hits. Rangers right in the middle of the pack coming in as far as runs scored. They had 13 of them. Now full count. Adrian with 1 RBI this year. Has Chu out there at second, Fielder at first to see if he can get them home. Infield at double play depth, pretty much straight away, with the possible exception of Cliff Pennington, the second baseman, shading toward the bag at second. We'll try the 3-2 pitch again. Shoemaker making sure he is not going to throw a fastball in the middle of the plate to Adrian.
Yeah, if he throws that one to Adrian when Adrian's hot, he might have unloaded, knocked in a few runs with that hanger he just threw up there.
Another 3-2 is on the way. Hard hit through the hole, a base hit. Two being waved around by Spiko, and the throw is going to be cut off. Adrian Beltre, the RBI single. The Rangers put 2 on the board, and they still have nobody out.
Well, he had a hanging curveball that he fouled off, then got a fastball and smoked it into left field. Hard hit ball between short and third, and the rally continues.
Well, Beltre with his second RBI.
That one right in the center of the plate, right in Adrian's wheelhouse. So the guys in the middle of the lineup, Fielder and Beltre, the big boys, each have an RBI single in the first inning. Still nobody out.
Doing what they're paid to do, right?
That's right. Knock those runs in.
Drive those runs in. Charlie Nagy, the pitching coach out there. Adrian Beltre, as we showed you in the pregame against the Angels, his best numbers against them for any opponent that he has. 136 now, the RBI total. 309 average against the Angels since the start of 2013. That's gone up a little bit. Adrian continuing to hit well, especially in this ballpark against the Angels. So 3 consecutive hits after the leadoff walk, 2 runs across, and Mitch Moreland now with first and second, nobody out. One ball, no strikes. Moreland 1 for 3 in the brief appearances that he's had against Matt Shoemaker. Mitch looking for his first RBI of the year, batting at 182.
There's changeup that Shoemaker's throwing. He's got a good changeup. Just hasn't really gotten a position to throw it yet. He hasn't had the command of his fastball that he wants.
See Mitch here at Angel Stadium, very good career numbers. A 292 average with 12 RBI and a home run. Memory serves, that home run was a game-tying blast in the 9th inning with 2 outs. One and one the count. Hard hit off the bag down the line. Fielder coming around third will score. Beltre motoring to third. Moreland will be standing at second with an RBI double, and the onslaught by the Rangers continues. 4 consecutive hits, 3 runs on the board. The Rangers leading the Angels 3-zip.
Yeah, Rangers got a little bit of a break there. I guess it's down the right field line anyway, whether it hits the bag or not by the looks of it, but it hit the bag, bounced up in the air. Prince is able to score. Second and third, still nobody out. Have a big inning. Another changeup right in the middle of the plate, though. It stayed up. Mitch missed the first one he saw. That time, after seeing it once, he was able to wait long enough to keep the ball fair.
So 3 singles and a double. Here's Ian Desmond with a chance to really do some damage and takes high and tight. Desmond, like Moreland, his predecessor, looking for his first RBI. There's a shot at that ball going right off the bag. Choi timed his dive pretty well.
I don't know if it would have gone in his glove, but he might have been there to give it a shot anyway, so maybe it was good that it hit the bag.
And Desmond pops it up. Towering fly ball to center. Trout didn't see it for a moment. Now he gets it. Beltre bluffs a move toward the plate, and he will stay back at third as Trout makes a strong throw. Now Desmond can't quite get it deep enough into center to score Beltre. That's out number 1. It brings up Rougned Odor.
He got a pretty good pitch to hit and had a good swing at it. He just got underneath it a little bit. Skied it straight up in the air. Hanging slider out over the plate. Just didn't connect on it.
So Ian, like most of the Rangers, struggling here in the early going. And another one that you mentioned, if you gave that pitch to Beltre later on when he was hot, he'd hit it out of the ballpark, or at least hit it real hard.
Yeah.
Same thing with Desmond.
Yeah.
Give that pitch to Ian in a couple weeks or a month, and it's going to make some loud noise.
Yeah, he's got to keep swinging.
Here's Odor, 0 for 7 since his first and only hit of the year. 1 ball, no strikes. He had 1 out of 14 and 0.71 average. He's faced Shoemaker almost a dozen times, hitting at a 200 clip. Infield pulls around to the right for the left-handed hitting Odor. And he pops it up. This one on the left side of the infield. Simmons has it for out number 2.
Well, now you need that 2-out single to pick up the 2 guys before you. Just maybe drop one in the right field, pick up those couple of runs. Great to have the 3. Boy, when you got 3 in, second and third, nobody out, you want to cash in and make it a huge inning. Another ball that Ranger batter just got underneath. Hit straight up.
The same kind of situation last night. Bases loaded, nobody out. Didn't get the runs home, and it cost in that close game. Now here's Elvis. Elvis off to a very good start, though. He's 2 out of 7, a 286 average. Couple of RBI for the Rangers shortstop. Looping drive to his counterpart. Simmons has it. So Rangers got off to a great start, score 3 times, and leave a couple after half inning of play in Anaheim. Rangers 3, Angels coming up. Trio of runs. And Tom's going to tell you now about the Angels lineup that will face it.
Yunel Escobar will lead off. Daniel Nava gets the start in left field. Mike Trout bats third, followed by Albert Pujols, who had the game-winning hit in last night's ball game. Cole Calhoun is in right field. Andrelton Simmons is the shortstop. Ji-Man Choi at first bats seventh. Carlos Perez is the catcher. And getting the start tonight at second base is Cliff Pennington.
And A.J. Griffin, the 28-year-old San Diegan, on the hill, back to the scene of his last Major League start almost 2.5 years ago. On September 24th of 2013, when A.J. Griffin last made his Major League start. That was against these Angels, and he was with the Oakland A's at that time. Went on to have Tommy John surgery the following April. Missed all of 2014 and had some problems with the shoulder last year. Yunel Escobar skies to right center field, and the liner to Shields there to make that grab. A couple of pitches, 1 out for A.J. Griffin. And we'll take a look at the rest of the Rangers defense is delivered to you tonight by Chicken Express. Now, you saw Delino out there in center field. He is flanked by Ian Desmond in left. Shin-Soo Choo is in right. Moreland and Odor on the right side. Andrews and Beltre on the left side. And Robinson Chirinos behind the plate, catching the 28-year-old right-hander A.J. Griffin. Daniel Nava taking strike one. Nava, formerly of the Boston Red Sox, and he was a guy that perennially Red Sox had high hopes for. And as an outfielder for them, never really got things going. He had spurts where he played well, but Red Sox finally had a few more guys coming up through the system and into the organization that were really good players and were producing. And Nava sent packing. It's fouled off the end of the bat. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Nava just 1 for 3 this spring. A.J. Griffin out of the University of San Diego. Cutter just off the inside corner. Griffin will not break any radar guns, but he prides himself in being able to change speeds. Has about probably a 9 or 10 mile an hour variance between his good fastball and a lot of the curveball and changeup. And the way he's able to spot it up, well, he really can be effective. And Tom, I know you and I talked about this one time, it was in the spring, that it seemed like for a while there with the Oakland A's, everybody that came through their system, every starting pitcher, had a great changeup to go along with a pretty good fastball.
Yeah, the whole staff was like that. Jared Parker had an excellent changeup. They were all pitching well. They had really good young staff. Unfortunately, Parker's hurt now. I think he's had maybe his 3rd Tommy John surgery, some type of an injury. Griffin has missed the last couple of years, but for a couple of years, he was called up in 2012, went 7-1, and he went 14-10. He was a good pitcher. He made a comeback after not pitching in the big leagues for a couple of years.
Payoff pitch to Nava. We'll try it again. Well, for A.J. Griffin, almost 2.5 years, you know that the anticipation coming into tonight had to be really something. Butterflies had to be swarming in A.J. Griffin's stomach. Probably all gone now, though, once he gets out there and throws a couple of pitches. Nava making it tough on him, though.
Yeah, Griffin has been a little bit prone to the home run ball. He will challenge you with a fastball instead of issuing a walk. And Nava's had a couple of fastballs. He's fouled them both off here with a 3-2 count.
Nava last year split his time with Boston and Tampa Bay. Another foul ball back. A.J. Griffin, in the year he won 14 for the A's, gave up 36 home runs. That led the American League. But he also had an ERA of around 3.5. So that's, you can give up all those home runs. It's still not a lot of solo home runs, I guess, would be the best way to put it. And this one rolled on the right side. Odor able to pick up the bobble, and that is out number 2.
Yeah, there's just a good example of doing whatever you can not to walk anybody. Nava's up there 3-2. He's looking for a fastball all the way. He got 4 straight fastballs for strikes. Fouled 3 of them off. And then on the 4th one, gets one out over the plate, grounds out to second base.
Yep.
And you can see that strike zone was painted with high fastballs, and Nava didn't do anything with them.
Oh, 2 away, base is empty, which is exactly what you like to see with this guy coming to the plate, Mike Trout, if you're an opponent pitcher. Trout and Pujols, if you can keep people off base in front of them, you're going to minimize damage, and they are going to do their damage. You hope it's not in multiples. down the right side. That is slicing into the corner, and it is foul. Shin-Soo Choo was way over in right center field, and he had to run about 120 feet or so to get over there.
Last night, it was pretty obvious that Derek Holland, pitching to Mike Trout, was trying to hammer him up and in with fastballs. Got him to chase a couple off-speed pitches, a slider down and in. And he's trying to keep the ball away from the lower part of the strike zone. He did have a base hit on a low fastball later on in the ball game. Keone Kela got ahead of him with a couple of curveballs, threw him an 0-2 low fastball, and he ripped it into left field.
High and tight. There's the fastball you were talking about.
AJ's trying to do the same thing.
We're going to be able to provide folks now in the very near future this year with some statistics, some advanced analytics. And, you and I talk about Trout being very much a low ball hitter. I'm interested to see what those numbers say about it. Well, exactly.
I think he probably is a low ball hitter.
Yeah,
I think our observation is pretty good on that.
Just see exactly how good a low ball hitter he is.
I'd love to have the statistics that you can verify what your eyes are telling you.
Yeah, we see him.
See how accurate we are.
And we see him 19 games out of the year, so we're missing 140 of him. That's off the fist.
You can see a high fastball and a little bit late on it, right off the fist. 3-2. Here it is, just like he did the novel.
A.J. Griffin getting set to throw his 19th pitch of this first frame. And he missed high and away.
Try to change it.
So A.J. issues a walk. Trout aboard. And with 2 outs, Albert Pujols will come up. Pujols, as Tom mentioned in our pregame, walk-off winner last night, his 19th walk-off hit. And the active leader, along with Albert Pujols, David Ortiz, Big Poppy. Those guys have been doing this for a long time. That's Pujols' 17th season at the major league level. 1 ball, no strikes. And despite what he did last night, Albert still just 2 for 12 this year. 1 RBI shy of the 11th, being the 11th player in major leagues. 1,700 RBI and 550 home runs.
Albert was trying to turn on that fastball, but A.J. cut the fastball and cut right away from his bat.
Fastball right down the middle. He caught Albert looking for something else. 1-2. That cut fastball, by the way, is something that we did not see A.J. Griffin work with when he was with the A's a couple of years ago. That's something he has added. Right off the end of the bat. That cue shot is going to stay fair. And Mitchell just back up, step on first base, and that will do it. So the walk, no damage done. Trout left stranded. After 1, Rangers by 3. T-Mobile customers can get a free season-long subscription to MLB.tv Premium. Go to T-Mobile.com/MLB to sign up now and catch every moment on America's fastest-growing LTE network. The Rangers come back to the plate. And Robinson Chirinos going after the first pitch from Matt Shoemaker. And he'll offset back over our heads and out of play. Chirinos with his first home run of the year last night. Touched Hector Santiago for that blast. 3 for 10. Robinson with a home run and a double to his credit. Now the 0-1. Oh, that ball is ripped to left field. Going over his Nava. He can't get there. It's one hop and off the Jersey Mike sign. And into second with a hero double. Get that? Hero Jersey Mike?
Yeah. It's hero, yeah.
It's a little late back home. I just thought I'd make sure you understood.
Well, Shoemaker threw Robinson a high fastball on the first pitch that he missed. Threw him another one right down the middle. Not quite as high, and he ripped it into left field. Robinson had a home run in last night's game. Right on that fastball. The Rangers couldn't get the one huge hit last inning with men at second and third. They got 3, though. Right back at it here in the second.
Well, Chirinos now with 3 of the Rangers' 6 extra base hits this year. A couple of doubles and a home run. Top of the order once again. Here's Delino DeShields, who walked and scored the first Ranger run. Tries to bunt that breaking ball and rattle it off the shin guards of Carlos Perez. Delino with his 4th walk of the season. That is among the leaders in the American League.
Yeah, Delino doesn't have a hit, but his on-base percentage is somewhere around 320, 330.
The appeal down to first base umpire. Let's head down to Emily Jones real quick.
You guys talk about Delino DeShields, and he really is relishing this role as the team's leadoff hitter, and has talked to me about it on a number of occasions already this season, about how his approach hasn't changed, but maybe his mentality is, and he knows that he's got to get on base any way that he can, and that's his job, to see more pitches, set the tone for the offense, and to get on base by any means necessary.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, that leads right into the question time I was going to ask you. Is when you look at a leadoff man, is it more important to score runs or have a high on-base percentage or have a high batting average?
On-base percentage is the #1 thing. If you're a guy that can run and your best quality is your on-base percentage, then you're going to score the runs.
Right.
But scoring runs is a function of the guys hitting behind you. You really can't control that. What you can control, have the best average you can, be as patient as you can, get as many walks as you can, and build up that on-base percentage, for sure. Especially a guy like Delino with his speed and the ability to steal bases, and as the team gets hot, the guys hitting behind him, if he has an on-base percentage of 35, 36%, right around in there, and hopefully even better, he's going to score his 100 runs.
And Delino last year a 345 on base percentage, which I would think for a rookie is pretty good.
It's real good for a rookie.
Into the hole. This is going to be tough for Simmons. And now they've got Chirinos in a rundown. And Delino DeShields did a good job of not trying to force it. He was going to try and go to second. Simmons would have nailed him after the tagout. No, that's too bad.
That's too bad. Yeah, and a ground ball hit to that side, you have to hold, especially with Simmons playing shortstop. He's voted the best defensive player in baseball. So if you're the runner at second, you have to go back to second on anything hit in front of you like that. And if Robinson was able to go back to second, I don't know that Simmons, well, he might have. He is Andrelton Simmons anyway, but it would have been a close play at first base with Delino running, having to go in the hole like that. But once you take that first step, it was all over.
So 1 away now, and Delino at first. He had a stolen base in the first inning. Shin-Soo Choo at the plate. Choo had a bunt single. Shoemaker stepping off. He looked over to first, and Delino DeShields was frozen. He was just standing there like a statue in the same position as before Shoemaker looked at him. Delino, a pretty good lead. Shoemaker with a pretty quick move to first base. Right-handers, the quicker their feet are, typically the better the pickoff move is at first. Shoemaker's going to have to really pay attention to Delino to Shields. Delino last year with 25 stolen bases. Just throw a little bit better down in the bag. And Choi has it pop out of his glove, but he recovers in time. Meanwhile, Shin-Soo Choo at the plate. Choo now 3 out of 13 in the early going. The bunt base hit, his second in 10 tries.
Ooh, that was close.
That was very close. Yeah, Delino kind of in between steps going out there, and Shoemaker almost picked him.
Yeah, Shoemaker said, you stole a base on me the first time, but I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for you this time.
Carlos Perez, the catcher, out in front of home plate, and they're looking into Mike Scioscia in the Angels dugout to see if there'd be any reason to ask for a review, a video review on that. Scioscia just shook his head no. Delino establishing that lead a little bit sooner this time. There goes to Shields. The pitch is a strike. The throw to second, and it gets away to Shields up, and he is headed to third. Simmons had the ball go off his glove, and it hit Delino to Shields about the same time it arrived to the glove. That ball ricocheted into left center field. And Pennington able to go out and back it up, but not before Delino able to advance 90 more feet.
Well, the Rangers end up exactly where they wanted to be in the first place. With Chirinos at second base, DeShields was trying to bunt him over to third base. But they're even better now because instead of having Robinson at third base, they've got Delino at third base. Got a chance for Chu to pick up a run.
Now there's an error scored on the play. We have not been notified yet who it was on.
It was on the catcher.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Ground ball to the right side. Now Choi. A high toss to Pennington covering. They get Chu, and Delino to Shields had a break from his secondary lead toward the plate, and that's what made Choi kind of take a long look over there. But Delino didn't have a good enough jump to try and score. So the put out goes 3-4. 2 gone.
Change up. Got the ground ball. Choi almost waited too long, then he almost threw it over Pennington's head. That would have been sweet.
Now 2 away. And Prince Fielder, who had an RBI single in the first, trying to do it again. 1 ball, no strikes. Angels with Fielder at the plate going to a modified shift. Simmons, the shortstop, shading toward the bag, but not on the first base side. Now he's going to go there. Mike Scioscia realigning the infield. Second baseman, Cliff Pennington, way out there in right field. Escobar staying at third, close to third on that left side, the only Angel over there. 2-0 to Fielder. Prince came into play tied for 4th with 5 RBI. He is up that now, so he's moving up toward the top even closer. 3-0. Shoemaker being very careful with Prince Fielder, but he's got another RBI man waiting in the on-deck circle, and that would be Adrian Beltre. Is the green light on for Prince?
Yep.
And low, ball 4.
I think Shoemaker was well aware. That wasn't an intentional walk, but it might as well have been. He knew he'd be swinging 3-0.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you fall behind 2-0, you're better off just going ahead and accepting your fate.
Yep.
Instead of making it a little bit easy for him. So runners at the corners. Adrian Beltre, a sharply hit base hit to left his first time, producing his second RBI of the year. That one drove home Shin-Soo Choo with the second run of the Ranger 3-run first inning. With that base hit now, Beltre is 5 out of 12 against Matt Shoemaker in their matchups. Well, he had a pitch to work with there and just swung through it.
Shoemaker worked in some pretty good movement on that pitch. There'll be 40 pitches for Shoemaker in the second inning.
0-1. And that will even the count. Beltre with runners at the corners. Got Delino to Shields down at third and Prince Fielder over at first. Rangers 3 runs on 5 hits here, and they still bat in the second inning. 1-2. And we'll come back and try it again. Now Perez going to go out and say something to Matt Shoemaker. Angel outfield shades Adrian Beltre around to the right a couple of steps. Mike Trout maybe 7 or 8 steps into right center field. Cole Calhoun straight away as the right fielder. And with Daniel Nava straight away and left, a pretty good gap in left center. Got him swinging. Shoemaker with his first strikeout of the night. And the Rangers strand runners at first and third. An inning and a half in the books. Rangers 3, Angels nothing. Fox Sports Southwest. On Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today for incredible deals and see why Ford is the best in Texas. Well, Cole Calhoun dumps a little Texas leaguer into center in front of Delino to Shields. That's how the bottom of the second begins for the Angels.
That's one of those big swings, little blooper, and it fooled Delino. Delino's first move was to take a step back, and once he took the step back, he had no time to recover to catch that little blooper.
Way down toward the trademark, and Cole Calhoun, a very strong hitter, was able to dump it out there. That's the first Angel hit of the night against A.J. Griffin. Now Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, lines one off the glove of Moreland down the right field line. Calhoun headed for third, and Chu can only bring the ball back to the infield. Angels with runners at second and third and nobody out.
Well, that's about as close as you can come to a double play without getting a double play. Ball just glanced off Mitch's glove. If he's able to snare that hard shot, chances are he's going to have a double play. Calhoun couldn't have gotten back. Hard smash just off the top of Mitch's glove.
A bloop single, a line drive off the glove for a double. Second and third, Ji-Man Choi with his second major league at bat. Choi, the first Korean player to play for the Angels in the franchise history. Fouled back. Made his major league debut here against the Chicago Cubs as a defensive replacement on Tuesday night. Had an at bat in last night's ball game, the ninth inning. Last year at Tacoma, AAA affiliate of the Seattle Mariners, hit .298. Nothing in one. Rangers will play the infield back with nobody out. Now nothing in two. A.J. Griffin with 27 pitches under his belt here this evening. Facing the 24-year-old right-hander from Incheon, South Korea, Ji-Man Choi. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Choi known for having a pretty good eye at the plate. A.J. tried to get him to chase that high fastball with 2 strikes.
There's a sharp breaking ball down and in, but Choi able to check his swing there. 2 balls, 2 strikes now. Well, A.J. trying to go for the strikeout here with runners at second and third and nobody out.
Choi walked 11 times in spring training.
Pulled down the first baseline, a foul ball. Oakland had that when he was going to the bag, but we'll come back and try it again at 2-2. Yeah, Choi, who spent his entire career in the Mariners minor league system, 335 minor league games, had a on-base percentage of .404.
Pretty good.
Broken bat, a pop-up on the infield.
That's using
one out.
That's using the cutter right there. Threw him an off-speed pitch before that. He was out in front of it. The ball just went foul, fortunately. The end of that bat stuck about 3 inches in the ground. Mitch had to reach down and yank it out of the ground. And he brought that cut fastball way inside and jammed him.
Choi planting some maple out there. He was going to see if he could get one to grow for him.
Boy. Here's the one before. It was a curveball that he's out in front of and pulled just foul. And there's the cutter in on the fist. And half the bat is left in Choi's hand. Good pitch.
One gone. Man, Carlos Perez now. Hits one up the middle. backhanded. Nice play by Odor. The short hop to Mitch Moreland for the out. In to score is Cole Calhoun. The RBI ground out by Perez. It's now a 3-1 Ranger lead.
Well, if you can turn second and third and no outs into only one run, that'll be a good inning. So AJ has to go after Cliff Pennington to get him out and limit the damage to one run. Nice play by Rubnett. He uses the one-hop throw to first base to get the out.
On the play, Simmons on over to third. Calhoun scoring for Perez, his first RBI of the year. And here's Pennington. He has not had an official at bat this year, getting the start at second base today. Pennington, a versatile ball player. All the infield positions, also left field, right field. One ball and one strike. Hard hit. Moreland picks it clean. He's going to race to the bag and wins that race with Pennington, and that'll do it. No, a good job by A.J. Griffin and the Rangers to limit the damage. A run on 2 hits and 1 left. Go to the third. 3-1 Rangers on Fox Sports Southwest. Here's Baseball Live with MLB.com at bat. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and a lot more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet. Rangers have their lead cut to 3-1 now as Mitch Moreland starts things off. It'll be Moreland, Desmond, and Odor to face Matt Shoemaker. Mitch had a ringing RBI double his first time up. Carrying one right off the bag and down the right field line. Ball and a strike. It's now an even .250 average. He was 3 for 12 for the season. Got into the RBI category. Mitch, of course, coming off a year that saw him set new highs in both RBI and home run. 23 home runs, 85 RBI.
And everybody uses a shift in a different way. The Angels leave the man on the left side of the infield fairly shallow. A lot of teams are playing back very deep. He's pretty shallow. Just in case Mitch did want to bunt, maybe because he's leading off the inning, he might be more prone to try a bunt.
Seems like that's the only time we saw Mitch do that in spring training was when he was leading off the inning. So maybe they were aware of that.
Right.
2-2 now. Good look at the ownership.
Yeah, the guy on the left side's back on the outfield grass.
And a towering pop-up. That is a big league pop-up.
That's one of the ones where you say, boy, I really just missed that.
Shortstop Simmons midway between first and second to make the grab. One down, and before Ian Desmond steps in, we'll send it back to Dana Larson in our studio for a Chevy game break. Amazing, Dana. Thank you. That is incredible.
Wow, talk about hot.
7 hits, and he finally got a single today.
Yeah, I finally got something other than a home run.
That is amazing. Ian Desmond skied to shallow center. He had a pretty good rip at that. A fastball from Shoemaker, fouled it back 1-1. And Ian came up. Runners at second and third. Rangers already had 3 on board in the first inning. Or 3 across, I should say, in the first. And he couldn't quite get it deep enough into center to score the next run. And Rangers would end up scoring only those 3, but you'd have to feel like you left some money on the table there.
Yeah, both innings. In the second inning, leadoff double, man on third and 1 out. Failed to get him in as well. So they've left some runs out there.
2-1 is low, 3 balls and a strike. Desmond trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the third inning. Odor, the Rangers' second baseman, will follow.
Yeah, baseball is a funny game. San Diego was shut out 3 straight times at home by the Dodgers. They go to Colorado and scored 13 runs today.
Pop down the right field line. That is going to twist back into the seats. Choi over there to take a look, but it's back about 7 rows. Now you average it out, 13 runs in 4 games. It's not too bad.
Playable.
Yeah.
Toronto, Josh Donaldson hit a home run, put Toronto ahead 7-2. Red Sox came back and beat them 8-7.
No lead is safe.
No.
3-2 to Desmond. Shoemaker, a pretty deliberate pitcher. And that is low, ball 4. Desmond draws the walk. Third walk issued by Matt Shoemaker tonight. You know, speaking about running around baseball in the different leagues, how about our Kubota power stats? Jordan Zimmerman with the Detroit Tigers. His first start for his new team. 7 shutout innings. Just a couple of hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts for the Tigers. That was against the Yankees today. Odor back to the screen with that first pitch. Rugnet popped out to short in the first inning. Rugnet looking for that first base hit of the 2016 season. He's now 0 for his last 8 times to the plate. Ian Desmond, pretty good speed, a pretty accomplished base stealer. Opportunity if Jeff Bannister so chose to get something going, get some motion going. High in the air, right center field. Calhoun going over. He's at the track. He is looking up, and it is gone. Right off the top of the wall into the seats, Rugnet Odor with his first home run of the year, and the Rangers lead it 5-1.
Rugnet had a great spring training. It was just a matter of time before he got a hold of one, and there it was. Sports writers asked Jeff Bannister about Rougned this year. You know, he's 1 for 14 to start the year. Everything's magnified at the beginning of the year, but were there any comparisons to a slow start last year? And Bandy didn't feel like there was any comparisons. Last year was a situation where he was swinging at pitches way out of the strike zone. Feels like he's being much more patient, hit a few balls hard. But you go 1 for 14 in July, no one knows you're 1 for 14, but 1 for 14 in April to start the season looks a little bit different.
And on the first pitch, Elvis Andrus grounds out to his counterpart, Andrelton Simmons. Rougned getting that sinker that stayed up just above knee high. He was able to turn on it. His first home run of the year, and the Rangers' third team home run this year. And the 5 on the board, that ties their season high of 2016. No, 2 gone. Now Robinson Chirinos.
Last year, Shoemaker pitched 135 innings. He gave up 24 home runs. 36 of the 70 runs he gave up last year came by way of the home run. So he's a guy that doesn't walk many, but he has been a little bit prone to the home run. He's more of a sinker ball pitcher, but I guess some of his sinkers flatten out.
It's funny that statistically he's a sinker ball pitcher, but he's a fly ball pitcher at the same time.
Yeah. And maybe they're hitting his slider, his changeup. I don't know.
A strike to Chirinos, who doubled his first time.
He almost gave up a home run to Mitch Moreland. Mitch just got underneath that fastball and hit it way up in the air. Rougned hit his pretty high too, but he got the distance with it.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Ranger bench, their best output so far early in a ball game this year. This only their 5th ball game, but still, you like to see the offense come alive early and score multiple runs.
Yeah, especially after what we talked about. 2nd and 3rd, nobody out in the 1st. After 3 were in. Man on 3rd, 1 out in the 2nd. Left a couple out there, but Rougned got him back with that home run.
2-2 pitch. Full count. Well, Chirinos, the number 9 man, trying to extend this 3rd inning. If he does, the top of the order, and Delino to Shields would be next. Got him swinging. Big breaking ball, and Shoemaker gets a strikeout to end the inning. But Rougned Odor, with his first round tripper of the year, a 2-run blast gets the Rangers on the board again. After 2.5, it's now the Rangers 5 and the Angels 1 on Fox Sports Southwest. '30th on your calendars. The Angels will be in town to play the Rangers, and it's also Captain and Friends Mascot Weekend. first 7,500 kids 13 and under get a Rangers captain t-shirt jersey presented by Fanatics. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com, or you can call 972-RANGERS. Well, Rougned Odor has provided a little cushion for A.J. Griffin and company. With the 2-run home run, and Rangers now have a 4-run advantage. Yunel Escobar in the top of the Angel order here in the third. Beltre.
No such thing as a bad hop to him.
No. Gobbles that thing up and throws Escobar out by 45 feet.
I was getting ready to say there's another tough hop, but I don't think they are tough to him.
He is something. If he can play in, get the ball on the grass, it's almost impossible to get the ball by him. He can handle almost anything off that.
Boy, we showed the ones last night in the pregame show.
Right.
Several nice plays. There's another one to go with it. It's a routine play for him.
Well, here's Daniel Nava. Ran the count full and had 5 foul balls before grounding out to second. Up the middle, that is into center field, a Nava base hit. Third hit of the night. And before Mike Trout comes up, let's check in with Emily Jones once again.
Well, guys, Rougned Odor with that big 2-run home run in the last half inning. Talked to him before the game, and his focus was not at all on what's been going on at the plate and how he struggled out of the gate, but he said rather he was just going to focus on his defense. He said that's something that I control. I can control my effort out there. I can control my execution out there. And if I keep my focus and my intensity on the defensive end of things, good things will happen at the plate eventually. And it looks like that eventually came tonight, guys.
Looks like a pretty good call. He made a nice defensive play and followed it up with a nice home run.
You hear things like that and you tend to forget he's still a very young baseball player. Hadn't a lot of experience in the big leagues. Up the middle, that is a rifle shot into center field off the bat of Mike Trout. Stopping at second is Daniel Nava.
Right. If it's down and out over the plate, he's got a pretty good chance of squaring it up.
A.J. Griffin had a pretty good look at that squared up swing. Wow. I'm not sure he saw the ball coming back, but he heard it.
Yeah, that's a tough spot. Down in the strike zone. Wow.
Yep.
Glad A.J. got out of the way of that one.
Boy, that was right over his head. So 2 on with 1 out. Albert Pujols now will face A.J. Griffin. That's one that A.J.'s going to wake up about 4 in the morning in a cold sweat, reliving that.
Yeah, down and out over the plate. Bad spot for Mike Trout.
Now here's a guy who definitely can ground into a double play, which is what the Rangers would love to have right here. First and second with 1 out. Pujols, a little cue shot down to Mitch Moreland his first time. 1 ball and no strikes. Albert 14th on the all-time home run list. Angels at first and second for him. Down to second, but Nava able to get back under the tag. Robinson Chirinos hadn't made a throw for a while. So I'm going to air it out a little bit, get loose. Rangers 149 double plays since the start of last year. That was the most in the American League. Slow breaking ball. Pujols started and stopped his swing about 3 times before that ball got there.
It looks like to a hitter, it looks like the curveball stops before it gets to the plate. Got a good delivery to add the aspect of it that it's tough to pick up.
Yeah, looking at Griffin, it seems like as a hitter you would probably see a lot of body motion there before the ball comes up.
Yeah, it makes it look like he's getting ready to throw a fastball, and then the deception of the delivery really makes you be way out in front of it. It's a slow pitch. It works like a changeup.
2-2 to Pujols. Left center field and pretty deep. Back is DeShields with a play. And Nava with a throw going in somewhere into second. He saw that throw coming in and decided to take off for third. He's in there safely. A long fly to left center field. Pujols kind of saying, oh boy, I just missed that one. Hey, he is a long out, number 2.
Had the right trajectory. It just didn't hit the right part of his bat. Got it in just enough. Nava must have done something sliding into third base. Something to his fingers, it looks like.
Did he jam his hand slide in there?
I don't know why he had to slide. The throw
Yeah,
was still in the air going towards second base. Could have walked into third base.
Angels trainer taking care of that. And yeah, you would think Ron Renicky, the third base coach, would have
told
said
him to stand up.
Yeah. Or maybe he didn't see him. I don't know. Maybe Nava didn't see him. Well, here's the throw down at second.
Ah, there we go.
And oh, you can see Odor stepped on his hand.
There we go. Yeah, that had to be it.
Apologies to Ron Renicky for suggesting that.
That he didn't see the runner?
Yeah. Sorry about that. My bad.
He didn't say anything when it happened at second base, I don't think. Sorry, Ron. Whatever it is, it's not feeling very good.
No, and whatever the trainer's putting on there doesn't feel very good either.
It's feeling worse. Try and hang in there.
Nava says, get that stuff away from me. That hurts worse than the injury. So, runners at the corners now with 2 outs. And it'll bring up Cole Calhoun. Calhoun, 1 for 1, singled to start off the second. Came around to score on Carlos Perez ground out. Got Nava at third, Trout at first. Chirinos flashing the signs out. Griffin ready to go. Up the middle, that is a base hit, and it brings home a run. Trout will motor on to third. Calhoun, first ball swinging, drives home his first run of the year. It's a 5-2 Ranger lead.
Middle of the plate. Calhoun hit it pretty well. Found a hole with it. Ned playing him to pull over toward first base a little bit. That's why the ball was able to go up the middle.
Looked like that cut fastball that didn't quite get in there. No, still first and third. Andrelton Simmons hit a hard line drive off the glove of Mitch Moreland for a double his first time, and he's up there hacking. Simmons doesn't strike out or walk very much. Walked fewer than 50 times last year in the National League and struck out right at 50 times last year. Big breaking ball from Griffin. 1-1. See the numbers for Simmons, 1 strikeout every 12.15 plate appearances. Second best ratio in the major leagues. Well hit to center field. DeShields retreating in a hurry and makes the catch just as he steps onto the cinders. Side retired, the Angels tack on a run. They get a run on 3 hits and lead 2. After 3, Rangers 5, Angels 2. For you can now stream games live on your mobile device. Just go to your app store and download the free Fox Sports Go app. Log in, watch the live stream, and now you can take the Rangers wherever you go. You understand that a lot of folks been taking in Ranger games on that Fox Sports Go app. We appreciate that, and keep it going. It's great to be able to watch your Rangers anywhere and anytime you want to. Now, a couple of defensive changes. Ji-Man Choi has gone from first base to left field, taking Daniel Nava's spot. C.J. Cron has entered the ballgame to take over at first. And Delino DeShields with his first base hit of the season. A ground ball right through the middle, so he has been aboard 3 times tonight. A walk and now a single, also a fielder's choice. So Delino into the hit column, now 1 for 11.
Yeah, watching Nava, it was his left hand that was so painful. And he's a left-handed thrower, so even though he was able to stay in the game and run while he was at third base, it's going to be problematic for him to throw. That's why he had to come out of the game. Big hole up the middle. Simmons was shading over toward third. The Rangers have some speed on the bags, and that'll be it for Shoemaker.
Yeah, Matt Shoemaker's going to have to come out of the game because of the number of base runners he's had and the number of pitches, too. He's way up there. So Mike Scioscia said that's enough. We're going to go to the bullpen. We have a pitching change here in Anaheim, California at Angel Stadium. The Rangers leading 5-2. We'll take this time out, and we're back right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. One, Adrian Gonzalez and the Dodgers battle Buster Posey and the Giants tomorrow. It's all in America's home for baseball all season long. Fox Sports 1, FS1, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. Cam Bedrosian has come in from the Angel bullpen to take over for Matt Shoemaker. Bedrosian, the 24-year-old out of Georgia, son of former great closer Steve Bedrosian. And he is a hard thrower. Good hard fastball in the mid-90s. Sharp slider. On here to try and shut the Rangers down. They have been able to be on base every inning with at least one hit. They have 6 hits. Make that 7 hits in their 3 innings plus. Shin-Soo Choo steps to the plate. He is 1 for 2. Delino DeShields with 2 stolen bases at first has a pretty good lead. And again, Delino, as Bedrosian made that quick step off and peered over at first, Delino just standing there like a statue. Out of play to the left. June at 3 for 14 this season, facing Bedrosian for the first time. Bedrosian, who made his major league debut back in 2014, was up most of the year with the Angels last year in 2015, appeared in 34 ball games. In 2013, Bedrosian made the switch full-time to the bullpen. He had started his first couple of years in the minor leagues with the Angels. He decided that his stuff would play better coming out of the pen, at least for the time being. 0-2. I mentioned Bedrosian with a good sharp slider, the 95+ mile-an-hour fastball. He'll throw an occasional cut fastball too. Not a big guy, about 6'2". I'm sorry, he's listed at 6 feet tall, an even 6 feet. He goes 230. Pretty stoutly built. Originally the first round pick in the 2010 draft by the Angels, 29th overall pick that year. No balls, 2 strikes. Right center field, Trout. 1 out, back to first. The liner to Shields, and that'll bring up Prince Fielder. So Chu flies out. Now Fielder, who is a perfect evening, 1 for 1 officially. RBI single and a run scored in the first inning, a walk in the second. One ball and no strikes. Mentioned Fielder now with 6 RBI. Coming into play today, Starlin Castro with the Yankees led the American League with 8. Mark Teixeira and Robbie Cano with 7.
Yeah, Castro drove in 5 the other day. Didn't drive in any today, though. They got shut out by the Tigers, 4-0.
Yeah, Jordan Zimmerman did the trick, and company.
Tigers off to a good start.
2 balls, no strikes to Prince, the former Tiger. Infield, and that shift around to the right side. Escobar, the third baseman, playing in a shortstop spot, which is a position he's very familiar with. And there's a strike to Fielder. 2-1. Junel Escobar over there at short, and 3 Angels on the right side of the diamond, with the shortstop Simmons closest to the bag at second. Outfield, as you noted, swung slightly around the opposite way. Prince, of course, with great power, left center field, right center field. Snap throw to first, and just getting back ahead of the throw is the liner to Shields. Boy, Perez came up firing behind Prince Fielder.
Fastball by Bedrosian. And you watch the tag, definitely late. That's one of those that we talk about all the time. If you're a left-handed thrower with a glove on your right hand, you have a little bit better chance.
Is that throw with the catcher throwing behind the hitter and make it tough on the runner to see him coming up?
I think Pudge did that all the time.
Yeah.
Get that left-hand hitter up there. Guy at first base loses track of the guy, the catcher, and Pudge just flipped that ball right behind the runner. Of course, with Pudge, if you weren't aware of Pudge when you were at first base, that was kind of on you.
Yeah.
But I think he still snuck up on him a couple of times with that throw.
Delino's
dived back into first base at least 10 times today.
And a couple of them have been very close.
He's been on base all the time. One was a fielder's choice, but he's been on base 3 times. Stolen a couple of bases, so they're working as hard as they can to keep it close. I just give up by now. I take about a 1-foot lead and say, okay, don't throw over here anymore. I'm tired.
I'm not sure that's in Delino's vocabulary.
No.
Out in front of it a little bit. It's popped back into the seats. Prince, a very good fastball hitter, as we all know, and some of the newer statistics that come out, they've rated the hitters being how proficient they are at hitting 93 plus mile-an-hour fastballs, and Prince was right at the top of baseball, batting average-wise, over 400 against 93 mile-an-hour plus fastballs. He can turn around the best heat. 3-2. And also has that kind of an eye when he's swinging the bat well, seeing the ball well. So a full count with 1 out. DeShields at first. Good chance that he's going to be running. Following fielder in the order is the cleanup man, Adrian Beltre. There goes Delino. Pitch is inside. It goes all the way to the backstop and not stopping at second. There goes Delino, and he's into third base standing.
I thought it hit Prince. I guess it just bounced right by him. That's a good break.
That's going to be a walk, a wild pitch, allowing DeShields to go to third. No stolen base because of the walk, but Rangers have runners at the corners and 1 out for Beltre.
The ball just bounced so far in front of Perez, he couldn't. Well, he tried to catch it. I don't know if he could have blocked it or not. The way it bounced straight up in the air like that, he probably couldn't. Now the Rangers another time now with a man on third base and less than 2 outs. See if they can pick it up this time. Left a guy at third and 1 out in the second and third, no outs in the first.
Beltre, an RBI single in the first inning. That ball is by everybody to the backstop. Here comes DeShields, and Delino scores.
That'll score him.
Down to second goes fielder. The Rangers up their lead now to 6-2. That's one of those fastballs at 96 that stayed down and skipping right under the glove and body of Carlos Perez.
He didn't. That's the same thing he did on the one before. He looked like he tried to catch it. He anticipated the hop and he was going to backhand it instead of going down in a traditional position of the glove on the ground, knees on the ground, and block it and keep it in front of you. Tried to catch it, it went right by him. Man on third base, both knees on the ground, glove on the ground. Might be a better way of doing it.
You know, you're noticing prior to the ball game during batting practice, or actually before batting practice, Mike Scioscia and Dino Ebel had Giovanni Soto, the other catcher, out working on blocking balls in the dirt. And I think that
I'm guessing if we're here early tomorrow, we might see a little of that then too.
I would imagine that's we're going to see a little tutorial on balls in the dirt tomorrow. Mike Scioscia, of course, very much a stickler for catching fundamentals. He was so very good behind the plate as a player himself. Mike Scioscia, a long-time Los Angeles Dodger. 1-2 to Beltre. Rangers 6 runs on 7 hits tonight. That's 7 in the hit column, something they have not been able to exceed this year. It's the most they have had.
The other side of it, Carlos Perez is getting a pretty good workout behind the plate too. He's had a lot of opportunities to block balls and reach for balls. Did a nice job of keeping that ball from going to the backstop. Oh, way outside.
2-2 with one out. Fielder right there at the bottom of your screen getting his lead from second base. Cam Bedrosian ready. Well hit to center field. Trout retreating, still going back, makes the catch. Reaching up over his half as he stepped onto the warning track. Beltre allowed out to center field.
That was one he probably just needed to get it up in the air a little bit more. It was a line shot, but you could kind of tell that Trout, with his speed and after all the highlight catches he's made, was going to be able to run that one down. Adrian hit a little more of a fly ball. He might have gotten the distance he needed. A low fastball right at the bottom of the zone, and Adrian hit it right on a sweet part of the bat. Deep part of the ballpark, though.
Our steel pitch tracker showing you that's in Adrian Beltre's happy zone right down there.
Yep.
So a long, loud out number 2. And here's Mitch Moreland. Mitch up there looking for that first pitch fastball, didn't get it. 0-1. Well, that closes the book on the starter, Matt Shoemaker, who goes the first 3 innings plus 1 hitter here in the 4th inning. 7 hits, 6 runs. They were all earned, 3 walks and 2 strikeouts. So he will not defeat the Rangers for the 5th consecutive time. Not tonight, anyway. Rangers with a 4-run advantage. They've been able to answer the single runs that the Angels have put up in each of the last 2 innings. Rangers answered with 2 in the 3rd and 1 here in the 4th, and still looking for some with Moreland up there and Fielder at second. 2 balls and a strike to Mitch. Moreland called on the inside corner. 2-2. Pitches average 231 now. That double plated his first RBI of the year back in the 1st inning. In the dirt, nice stop. That time by Carlos Perez. Say one thing, Bedrosian has given him ample opportunities to work on that long hop breaking ball.
And that Shoemaker gave him a pretty good workout too.
Yeah. Three and two. Got him swinging. 95 up and away, and Mitch gone on strikes. Rangers get a run on a hit, and they leave one. After 3.5, it's now the Rangers 6 and the Angels 2. on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, and nothing to hide. And by Mazda. In every car we make, you'll see why driving matters. A.J. Griffin back to the hill now again with a 4-run advantage. And he will work to Ji-Man Choi. Choi popped out to second, his first at-bat tonight. Rangers with 3 in the first, 2 in the third, 1 in the fourth. As we mentioned, they have answered the Angels' single runs. Angels put a run on the board in the second and 1 more in the third. Right down the middle, 2-1 to Choi. A.J. Griffin, 53 pitches through the first 3 innings, plus 1 hitter. Shallow left field. Desmond, long run. Beltre with his back to home, and it comes up with a snow cone.
What a catch! I was hoping one of the other guys could get to it so Adrian didn't have to make that impossible play. That's what Adrian said.
Yeah.
To Elvis, where the heck were you?
That ball was coming back to you, and it's an easier play for you.
He has to, it looks like he's going to just catch a basket catch. Then he has to move his glove right at the end with his back to the plate. That's a tremendous play.
Yeah, we saw him make one of those, I think it was in Oakland, where he ran down in foul territory.
Yeah, even farther.
Yeah, and caught one like that into the bullpen, as a matter of fact. This one was in fair territory. That was an extra base hit.
What a play.
And, yeah, he's got a fan club in A.J. Griffin all of a sudden. I don't blame him.
Well, we did the defensive package on him for the pregame show last night. He's got a couple to add to it tonight. Save him up for the 4th game. We'll have a big one for him. Probably got a few more left today and some tomorrow.
All Adrian all the time. Well, one very impressive out, Carlos Perez. Big slow hook, and A.J. Griffin at 67 miles an hour. Out here, that wouldn't even get a speeding ticket in the school zone, I don't think. 1 and 2, or 2 and 2, excuse me. Perez had an RBI on a ground out his first time up. Full count. Perez, the number 8 hitter, trying to get aboard with 1 out here in the 4th. Cliff Pennington, the second baseman, is next. Outside, just missed. 1 out walk, the second free pass issued by A.J. tonight.
Yeah, sometimes you can label a walk a good walk, like maybe the 2 out, nobody on walk to Trout in the first inning, pitching carefully. That's not a good walk right there. Got the 8th place hitter with a 4-run lead. You don't want to walk him.
Now the number 9 man, Pennington. Cliff had his first official at bat in the 2nd inning. Grounded out to first.
Change up.
Griffin pulling the string. Good fastball to the inside corner.
Good location with it. Followed the changeup up with a 89-mile-an-hour fastball. Probably looked a little more than that to Pennington.
Pennington and Griffin, teammates back in 2012 with Oakland. One ball, 2 strikes. That, of course, was the year that A.J. Griffin came to the big leagues, won 7 games very quickly. A's really thought they had a horse in Griffin that year. He won 14 the next year and looked like he was off to the races. That ball is crushed to center field. The liner to Shields going back. It is off the wall and caroms over to Chu. Around third coming in to score is Perez. Pennington into third with the RBI triple. It's a 6-3 Ranger lead.
Pennington got a fastball down I don't know that he can hit a ball any farther than that to center field. Right around 400 feet to dead center field. Delino was playing much shallower than that against Pennington, who's not known for his power, and shaded over a little bit toward left center field, so he had a long way to go. Couldn't get to it. Pennington with 2 strikes. Put a nice swing on that fastball.
Well, Pennington with his first hit of the year and his first RBI. He's at third base. Still just 1 out. Now the top of the order for the 3rd time. Escobar. Rangers with that 6-3 lead will play the infield back.
It is. It's just as much as the triple was the walk. 1 out, nobody on to Carlos Perez. That comes back to haunt you right there.
Escobar is fly to center, grounded to third. 2 balls, no strikes. Griffin from the stretch. And he gets a pop up to shallow right center field. Chu calling off to Shields to make the catch. He has the better arm of the 2, and he keeps Pennington at third base. That is out number 2 and a big one.
Yeah, that would have been interesting because he does have a stronger arm than Delino, and that's the smart play on a ball that either one of them can catch easily. Just let the guy with a stronger arm catch it, and that looks like exactly what happened. You can see Ron Renicky talking to the runner at third base. I don't know if his choice would have changed if it wasn't Chu that caught the ball, but in any event, he got the pop up and no run scored.
So 2 gone, and here is the Ranger killer, C.J. Cron, for the first time tonight. And first ball swinging, he pops it up. Figured out how to get Chu.
Not this time, C.J.
Rougned Odor handles it, and the A's, or I should say the Angels' damage is limited to a run on a hit with 1 left. After 4, Rangers by 3.
Of the 5th here at the Big A, and as we talked about at the top of the show, no panic in these Texas Rangers, even though they were riding a 3-game losing streak coming into this game. And one guy who picked up very quickly on the attitude of this team was Ian Desmond.
You build on adversity just like you do on success, and we're learning. And I think this is a team that's, obviously I'm new here, but this is a group of guys that they've kind of grinded it out before, and they all trust in each other's abilities, and I'm bought in just like everybody else, but it's just growing pains.
And hopefully those growing pains will go away at least tonight. The Rangers in control of this one 6-3, but still a lot of baseball to be played, of course, guys.
All right, Em, thank you. Yeah, boy, Ian Desmond was tailor-made for the way this ball club operates. Very gritty player, very much win-oriented. And like he said, he bought in and didn't take much convincing either. Corey Rasmus, the new pitcher for the Los Angeles Angels. Rasmus becomes the third pitcher tonight. Shoemaker started with the first 3+, and Cam Bedrosian in the fourth inning. And now Rasmus on. Corey, the younger brother of Colby Rasmus of the Astros. Rasmus, a 28-year-old. This is low and outside, 2-1. Pretty good fastball. Fastball slider combination for the most part. Has been a starter in the minor leagues, and certainly the repertoire was there. Just couldn't quite put it together at big league level for that. 2-2. Desmond has walked and scored. Flied to center field. 0 for 1 officially. Still 2-2. Desmond waiting. Our steel pitch tracker showing you the groupings of those pitches. Breaking ball that stayed pretty much in the middle, but Desmond fighting it off foul. Those 3 pitches in succession by Corey Rasmus, not exactly where you want to throw, especially a guy like Desmond too often. You're tempting fate.
As a hitter, you hope to get one pitch like that every at bat. Had some good swings at him. Hadn't been able to make that solid contact he's looking for.
Got him swinging. Slider from Rasmus, and there's a strikeout number 1. Folks, Saturday, April 16th will feature a 7:05 contest with the Baltimore Orioles coming to Globe Life Park. It's the first home weekend of the season. The first 15,000 fans, 14 and older, get a Texas Rangers pullover jacket courtesy of Globe Life. Get your tickets at texasrangers.com, or you can call 972-RANGERS. Rougned Odor, a 2-run shot into the seats his last time up. First home run of the year. First 2 RBI for the Rangers second baseman. Not a lot of success against Corey Rasmus. 0 for 7, but that can change at any time. Choi toward the line, puts the brakes on. That is out number 2. Back to Rougned Odor, our Jimmy John's delivery of the game for you. Rougned Odor delivered this, a towering blast into the first row as the Jimmy John's delivery man was making his way down the aisle. Rougned Odor doing the honors tonight for Jimmy John. 2 away, bases empty. Elvis Andrus takes a fastball just outside. Rangers have had at least 1 base runner in every inning. They bat here in the top of the 5th with the bases empty and 2 out. Elvis needs to get on to keep that streak going. Shoots it the other way, and he's going to. Now there's one where
I don't get that shift.
Shift against Elvis. That doesn't make much sense to me.
I don't get that one. I mean, I'm sure they've got the stats to bear it out, but that's what we're talking about, Buzz. I don't think our eyes would tell us that you should play the second baseman on the other side of second base against Elvis. And that's kind of an Albert Pujols shift right there. There's no one on that side. Elvis goes the other way at will. So I hope he faces that shift every time he bats this year.
If I had a book on Elvis Andrus as a pitcher against him, I want to throw low and away and say, here, hit the ball that way if you want to. Because you know he's not going to hit the ball out.
No.
Not going that way. But
I'm kind of shocked to see the shift there. But again, I'm sure that you can put a printout in front of us that shows us why they're doing it. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. but we've seen Elvis play a lot. That's not what our eyes would tell us.
Well, here's
which is why
Chirinos.
we want the data, so we can look at the data.
That's right. We don't trust our eyes necessarily.
I want to see how trustworthy my eyes really are. Probably not that trustworthy.
Well, they got the same shift on with Chirinos at the plate. Maybe it makes a little more sense with him up there, but I'm still not sold on the idea that right-handed hitters are going to pull the ball as much as a left-handed hitter would. Again, the three Angels on the left side of second base. It's only about a 120-foot hole on the right side. Chirinos 1 out of 2 with a double. There goes Elvis, and the pitch is high. A strike, and the throw is high. And Elvis with a stolen base. Andrews with his first stolen base of the year. He was caught the other 2 times that he attempted to steal.
Delino has a couple of stolen bases tonight, and now Elvis has one to go along with it. They're going to challenge this one, I think.
Mike Socia out on the top step, and they are going to issue the challenge. Well, we'll let you all see what they're going to see back at the replay command center in New York. You make the call on this one, folks. Elvis's hand, the tag applied. Hard to tell from that angle exactly when he was tagged.
I'm making the safe call on that one.
Yep, I think you're right.
On that angle, anyway.
The crew chief Brian Gorman, the home plate umpire, has the headset on, along with Mike DeMuro, the second base umpire, who made the call. And again,
there will be a better angle than that last one, though. They're showing one on the TV right now.
Yeah, that angle that we're seeing on the big screen out here looked a little bit
that's
anti-Ranger.
Don't write that stolen base down in your scorebook yet.
I already did.
I did too, but I'm using pencil. Will it be conclusive evidence? Let's see.
Yeah, when does his hand get to the bag? Yeah. I think that one's going to get overturned. Well,
it's still pretty close, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. Taking a long look at this back at replay command center, and out is the call. So the call overturned. Elvis with his third caught stealing instead of his first stolen base. And that's going to do it for the Rangers. We're halfway through the ball game in Anaheim. It remains the Rangers 6, the Angels 3 on Fox Sports Southwest. Arlington on April 19th. The Astros will be in town, and the first 15,000 fans get a Jeff Bannister bobblehead commemorating the 2015 American League Manager of the Year award. That's courtesy of AT&T. Get your tickets at TexasRangers.com, and don't forget to wear your red out to the ballpark for that Astros series. Bottom of the fifth inning, and Mike Trout pounds a pitch foul from A.J. Griffin. It's no balls and 2 strikes.
Trout took a fastball for a strike. That was a pretty good changeup by A.J. to get ahead in the count.
Trout tonight has walked and singled. He had a line drive right over A.J. Griffin's head into center field. Boy, and he had one there to work with, too. That right down in his wheelhouse. And fouling it back. That's not exactly where A.J. Griffin wanted to locate that 0-2 pitch.
No, Robinson had the glove up and in. That ball was pretty much right down the middle of the plate.
To center field, DeShields retreating right on the warning track.
I think he got jammed on that ball and still almost hit it out.
Long out number 1, and Albert Pujols coming up. But first, we're going to go back to our studios. Dana Larson with a Chevy game break.
Wow.
All right, Dana, thank you.
Seen that already.
That's
3 or 4 times already.
That's the third one I can think of that 2 of them have ended the game. Jose Bautista was called for one the other day against the Rays, and the Blue Jays lost that one.
To me, that rule should be you can't start your slide past second base. If you slide before second base, then that should be a legal slide. And you can't slide into left field. You have to be able to touch the bag. But the one where you can slide to your right or left, as long as your hand is on the bag, can touch the bag, seems like that one's been forever. And I don't know that that's one that risks an injury to a player if you're sliding and can touch the base. The one the dangerous one that Utley had that hurt the Mets shortstop was the one he started to slide on the other side of second base, would ended up on the outfield grass. That's the one you have to outlaw. To me, that's a dirty slide.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a roll too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Albert Pujols not able to wait nearly long enough on that 67-mile-an-hour curveball from A.J. Griffin. A.J. gets his first strikeout of the night. 2 up, 2 gone.
Love that pitch. He got Albert out on it the first time up. He hit it right off the end of the bat. Cued it to first base. And that's a good one there because that's down and it's outside. The one to Trout was over the middle of the plate. Trout hit it almost to the warning track, right to the fence at the 396 sign out there. That's the location A.J. wants.
Cole Calhoun, first ball swinging, slices a fly ball to left, and there's Ian Desmond. So that'll do it for the first time this evening. A.J. Griffin sends the Angels down in order. 1-2-3. We finished 5, 6-3 Texas. Folks, it's time now for the Sonic Slam inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $100 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. If a Ranger hits a home run during this inning, Larry Bowman from Little Elm will win the $100. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam during this inning, Larry will win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Well, Robinson Chirinos, who was left standing at home plate, as Elvis Andrews was caught trying to steal to end the fifth inning, will start things off. Be Chirinos, DeShields, and Chu here in the Rangers' sixth. Robinson, 1 out of 2, that second inning double to left field. Fastball up and in, and Rasmus plunked Robinson on that left arm. Fastball from Rasmus just kept on boring in on him, and Robbie had nowhere to go.
No, he just walking to first base thinking how much that hurts right now. He got drilled pretty good. Not quite the elbow, but still a spot that really hurts.
Well, got him in the left tricep.
Yep.
That's going to leave a mark. Hector Ortiz, first base coach and catching instructor over there to check out his pupil's arm. Yeah, rub a little dirt on it, Robinson. It's easy for me to say because I didn't get hit. So 1 on, nobody out. Back to the top of the order. Here's Delino DeShields. Delino, 1 for 2 officially tonight. He's been aboard all 3 times. A walk, a base hit, his first of the year. And he's also reached on a fielder's choice. Rangers now with 8 hits. This is the first time they have reached that mark this year. Good slider from Rasmus. 1-1. Lino out checking with Spike Owen down there at third. Chirinos bluffed the move, and Calhoun coming on for that fly ball. 1 away, back to first. Chirinos. Shin-Soo Choo will be next. Choo 1 for 3 this evening. Outfield playing the Ranger right fielder just about straight away. Trout maybe shading 2 steps toward left center field. Infield not in an overshift. As you see, they are at double play depth, Simmons and Pennington. They are also shifted around 3 or 4 steps to the right. Way off the bag at third is Escobar. 1-0 pitch.
Changeup right there from Rasmus. That looked exactly like a fastball. 85 instead of 92.
Chirinos getting the sign from across the diamond. Modest lead for the Ranger catcher. Rasmus comes back to the 92 that the other one looked like, and that was it. Chu couldn't pull that trigger. Rasmus a check of first. We'll try it again at a ball and 2 strikes. Right-hander again ready. Rasmus, as I'm sure baseball fans know, comes from a baseball family. Of course, his older brother Colby down there with the Astros, and got a younger brother, Casey, drafted by the Cardinals back in 2011. He retired this past year. Tap foul. Their father, Tony, was also drafted by the Angels back in 1986. Played for 3 years in the Angels farm system. Well, the DNA has a lot of MLB in it. That changeup again. It's 2-2. The one thing that we've seen is you get a look at Corey Rasmus thinking about this next pitch. One thing we've seen from Shin-Soo Choo this year we didn't see this time last year is obviously that he's seeing the ball better because he's having more patient at bats or swings like that where he just fights off a tough pitch. And
yeah.
Last year it seemed like every time he got 2 strikes on him, he was gone on the next pitch.
Yeah, and again, it's just an eyeball opinion. It seems to me in the first half last year, he had a lot of pitches out of the strike zone called strike zone.
Yeah.
A lot of pitches up and away that just weren't strikes. And for a guy that's patient, he was taking those pitches, but they just weren't going his way. He had a strike called on him in this at-bat that was borderline up and away, but a lot of the ones last year were even farther away from the plate than that.
Our steel pitch tracker showing you the 3 pitches thus far out of the strike zone. Full count. Chirinos gets a calling card from Rasmus. Choo hitting second in the order, trying to put multiple runners aboard for Prince Fielder. Payoff pitch coming. Time called. Robinson had a good jump too. Might have been able to swipe second if there had been a strikeout. And he's going to have to retrace his steps.
Here's a little gem that Brian just passed down. We're talking about all the weird things that have happened and always happen in baseball. The Cardinals set a major league record tonight. I'll tell you about it right after. Oh, it's not a pitch. They hit 3 pinch hit home runs, 2 of them by rookies. They came in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. 1 to tie it, 1 to go ahead, and 1 for an insurance run in a 7-4 win.
Wow.
So it's just another example. You can never say you've seen everything because sooner or later something new happens.
Yep. 3 pinch hit home runs in successive innings. That's
pretty
something.
good.
Choo slices a fly ball to left for Choi.
Well, Shin-Soo was battling in that at bat. He had everything thrown at him. He took some tough changeups, fought off a fastball, and went the other way and ended up hitting it right at the left fielder.
And our TXU Energy power player to watch right now up the coast through 7 innings. Ross Stripling in his major league debut has a no-hitter going against the Giants for the Dodgers.
Yeah, boy, the Giants scored 12 runs yesterday, 13 runs against
13,
them.
yeah, I think it was. Yeah. That was
Not
after
too familiar with Ross Stripling, but go for it, kid.
There's one of the Dodgers had 30 consecutive shutout innings, considering San Diego and then the first few innings against the Giants. Give up 13 in the last part of that game. And now they're getting a no-hitter from a guy that's never taken a major league mound before.
Well, he's thrown 91 pitches through 7 innings. So he might test his pitch count in this one, unless they get a quick hit.
Prince Fielder, a couple of walks and his single with an RBI tonight. No balls, 2 strikes. Steel pitch tracker showing you Rasmus working on that low outside corner. high drive to right center field. This one, though, is going to stay in the ballpark. Calhoun under it. That will do it for the Rangers. You say Prince just missed that one. So Chirinos left stranded after being hit by the pitch. 5.5 in the books. Rangers still lead the Angels by 3. Choice 20 game plan is the most flexible way to enjoy the 2016 Rangers season. You can choose from the 20 games that work best for your schedule. Can't make it to one of the games? That's no problem. Your 20 game plan includes a flexible exchange policy. For all the details and benefits, visit texasrangers.com/20 game plans. Rangers everywhere around Major League Baseball. Ranger gear out here in evidence at Angel Stadium. A.J. Griffin back to the mound, and he is dealing to Andrelton Simmons to start off the bottom of the 6th inning. It'll be Simmons, Choi, and Perez. And A.J. back out there. Pretty good shape pitch count-wise, just 79 of them. That after a very quick and tidy 1-2-3 5th inning, disposing of Trout, Pujols, and Calhoun.
Yeah, got the tough part of the order. He's retired 5 straight. And Simmons is a guy that'll swing at anything, so make it close and he'll swing at it.
Simmons has doubled and flied to center field. There's a strike at the knees. 2-1. Rangers tonight have out-hit the Angels 8-6. They're up by 3 on the scoreboard at 6-3. Off speed and in the air to center field. Got him off balance a little bit. Simmons skies out to DeShields for out number 1. And that is 6 straight now sent down by A.J. Griffin and company.
It hasn't been a masterpiece tonight by A.J. I don't know that he's had the command he'd want within the strike zone, but it's a gritty performance. I'll say that for him. He's given it all he's got, throwing a lot of strikes. 53 strikes, 29 balls. Gotten a few pitches up. A couple of balls have been hit hard. A lot of balls in the air have been caught. And he's retired 6 straight batters here, so hanging in there, doing a good job.
And the Ranger bullpen busy. Tom Wilhelmsen getting ready out there. Ji-Man Choi. He has popped out a couple of times. Once, the last time up, Adrian Beltre with his back to home plate. He had a great catch. He's going to pop up the 3rd time. If that comes down, it's going to be in Adrian's glove. 2 gone.
Boy, A.J. mowing him down right now. Keep it going.
And not a lot of ground balls tonight, but that's pretty typical of A.J. Griffin.
I can't remember Elvis fielding a ground ball yet. Rugnet's had one. Adrian's had one.
And Moreland had one. That's it.
One.
Three ground balls is all this evening. Now 2 of them to Rugnet. Carlos Perez has walked and grounded out. His ground out produced an RBI, and he takes a belt high strike. Perez, the 25-year-old, joined by Giovanni Soto to form the catching tandem. Gets this one well, pulls it foul down the left field line. Had home run depth, but a little too much hook in it.
Took something off that, threw him a changeup, got him out in front of it. Now he's ahead in the count, 1-2. He tends to work fairly quickly out there. That's nice.
Off the end of the bat, Beltre read that grounder well, got a pretty good hop to work with. Smooth as silk at third base, Beltre with the out. 1-2-3 inning. That is 8 straight now, set down by Griffin. On to the 7th, 6-3 Rangers. Game summary, and it starts with the first inning. Mitch Moreland caps off a 3-run first with an RBI double. Prince Fielder scoring, Rangers jump out early, and then Rougned Odor, the biggest blast of the game for the Rangers, a 2-run shot right over the out-of-town scoreboard. Odor's first home run of the year, and again, Adrian Beltre flashing the leather back to home plate. Shades of Willie Mays.
That's a play.
A snow cone to boot. A.J. Griffin and the Rangers beneficiaries of that great play by Adrian.
Yeah, I think, Buzz, when you come right down to it, that was a tougher play than Willie Mays' play.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
It wasn't in a World Series game or anything like that, but as far as degree of difficulty, I'll go with that one Adrian just made.
Yeah, 37-year-old having to go about 60 feet.
And then make that adjustment right at the end to catch it with his head facing toward left field.
Yeah, the ball slicing back toward the outfield and trying to play all that. Adrian at the plate tonight, 1 for 3. That RBI single in the first.
Rasmus got a good slider.
Yes,
boy.
he does. Yes, he does. Adrian setting him up, going down to that one knee. He said, okay, get one up a little bit for me. It was a fastball. He got up and it's fouled away. I know hitters don't set up pitchers like that.
Good ones might.
Adrian
hitters
does.
like me just up there trying to do the best they can.
Our Ford leaderboard. How about some career numbers against the Angels? RBI in the career. Adrian with 136 now. That is 5th best all time against this Angel franchise. Alex Rodriguez, one more than the great Carl Yastrzemski to lead it. And Beltre is going to sky to center field for Mike Trout. Just noticed the game up the coast we've been talking about. Stripling was throwing the no-hitter, and he was taken out in the 8th inning with a no-hitter intact after walking a man, and then there's a 2-run home run that left the ballpark for the Giants. So
he didn't lose his no-hitter, but he's not going to win the game.
No, Giants have 2 runs on 1 hit. And they're tied at 2. That's got to rub a little salt.
We got 3 runs on 1 hit and 1 the opener.
That's right. That's right.
Our hit went about 120 feet, though. The one they just hit went 400 feet.
It's more than takes high and outside. 2 balls, no strikes. Now, the Rangers were on a kick there. They were scoring runs with no hits. Well, they did it last night in the first inning, scored a run with no hits.
3 walks and an error helped.
Mitch a double in 3 trips. Good changeup by Rasmus.
Rasmus has pretty good stuff.
2-1. Rasmus last year split time between AAA and the big leagues. 16 games with the Angels and that 5.23 ERA. At Salt Lake City, he had 10 ball games. He had a 235 mark. 2-2 to Mitch. Mike Trout, just a couple of steps to his left, 2 gone. Now Ian Desmond coming to the plate. And before Desmond steps in, we want to remind TCU fans that Fox Sports Southwest wants you to show your Horned Frog pride at the Rangers game. Get discounted tickets for the Friday, April 15th game against the Orioles. And the first 2,000 fans with a TCU ticket at the park will receive a free Rangers cap in TCU colors. Just go to TexasRangers.com/TCU for details. So come on, Horned Frogs, get on out there. Ian Desmond 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored tonight. Rasmus back to him, misses high. In case you were wondering, it was the Giants catcher Trevor Brown who had that 2-run home run. Broke up the no-hit bid.
Wow, not too familiar with Trevor Brown.
No.
Either. Good for him.
One and 2.
Another gem from Brian. I did not know this. Ross Stripling is from Southlake, Texas, and threw a no-hitter for Texas A&M. See, we should have known that now. Well, he almost backed that no-hitter in college with one tonight, too.
Yeah, he did.
Nice going, Ross. There's Brian. Raise your hand, Brian. Best stat man in baseball. Oh, hey, Johnny boy. And this is the best stage manager in baseball. He's a little bit under the weather.
Yeah.
He's working on a quintuple bypass. Had it yesterday, and here he is in the booth tonight. This is the toughest man in baseball right here.
Now you don't need to go back to the doctor. We can take those stitches out for you after the game.
We told Johnny we would show him tonight, but he cannot show his scar like LBJ did way back when.
Yeah.
So he said, all right, no problem.
Three balls, 2 strikes. It's great to have Johnny Reynolds back. Glad to see you up here. Base is empty, 2 away here in the 7th inning. Ian Desmond at the plate, a 3-2 count. If Desmond is able to keep things going, Rougned Odor would get a shot at Rasmus. And he does. Ball 4. Second walk given to Desmond tonight. Well, that's a good omen because the last time he walked, Rougned Odor came up and put one of the front row of seats out there in right field. And the pitching coach, Charlie Nagy, going to go out there and have a chat with Corey Rasmus. Ryan Gorman going out
He's
there.
out of time.
Yeah, that's the timer for the visit to the mound. And Ryan Gorman taking it pretty seriously. He was walking out there and he was there.
If you don't get back past the foul line in 30 seconds, there ought to be a trap door that they press, and you just like disappear down into the clubhouse. That's how you get ejected from the game.
Well, they could stop a lot of that. You give the umpires tasers. As soon as that clock hits 0, boy, you'd be zipping guys off there. On the appeal down to third, the check swing is upheld by Quinn Walcott, the third base umpire. 1 ball, no strikes. Odor waiting for Rasmus. Moved that last year with that's his first home run of the year, and he just got over the out-of-town scoreboard here. He had 16 of those last year, though, with the Rangers. And he takes in the dirt. 2 balls and no strikes. He had 16 home runs in 426 at-bats at the big league level. He also had 5 in 108 at-bats at AAA. He had 21 home runs last year between the 2 stops. Ahead of the count here, 2 balls, no strikes. Rasmus ready to work. Roogie was swinging fastball and he got the slider. 2-1. Odor is 22 years of age. Maracaibo, Venezuela. Rasmus intent on keeping Desmond close to first. Rasmus in the ball game since the 5th inning. And misses outside, 3-1 to Odor. Well, with 2 out, Rangers trying to make some noise. They had a walk to Desmond. Now Odor with a 3-1 count. If Rougned continues this inning, Elvis Andrus gets ready in the on-deck circle. Another off-speed pitch. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Now with a full count and 2 outs, C.J. Cron, the first baseman, will play behind Ian Desmond, allowing him to get a free run at second base. He will be off and moving with the pitch. If Odor had not hit that ball foul, it would have hit him right in the front leg, I think. Big breaking ball on 3-2. Maybe the back leg. Carlos Perez was getting himself over down on the ground to block that if necessary. Another 3-2 coming from Rasmus. Lost him. Back-to-back 2-out walks. Let's see if Elvis can make him pay for it. It's not going to be against Rasmus as Mike Scioscia is heading to the mound. So the 2 walks by Rasmus will spell his undoing here this evening. He will leave in the 7th inning with 2 on and 2 out. Rangers trying to add on to their 6-3 advantage. Pitching change underway here at Angel Stadium in Anaheim. We will take a timeout. We're back right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Customers can get a free season-long subscription to MLB.TV Premium. Just go to T-Mobile.com/MLB to sign up, and you can catch every moment on America's fastest-growing LTE network. Well, the Rangers leading 6-3 after a couple of 2-out walks. Mike Morin has come on to replace Corey Rasmus. Morin, 24-year-old out of the Kansas City area, Leawood, Kansas. Hard-throwing right-hander with a great changeup. Went to the University of North Carolina. He is on here to face Elvis with Ian Desmond at second, Rougned Odor at first. Elvis tonight 1 for 3. One ball and no strikes. Elvis's base hit came with 2 outs in the 5th inning. One and one. Elvis, a couple of hits and 7 trips to the plate against Morin. One of those hits, a double. Also driven in a pair. Rangers 6 runs on 8 hits tonight. They've also had 6 walks. They've had base runners to work with, a couple hit by pitches. Fastball just off the bottom of the strike zone. 3-1. Well, Morin having trouble finding the strike zone to Elvis. Andrews hitting 8th in the order. If he's able to get on, Robinson Chirinos would bat in the 7th. Off speed and in for a strike. The count is full. So both Desmond and Odor now will be off and moving with the next Morin offering. Payoff pitch on the way. Check swing foul on a pretty good fastball that was down in the zone. Well, let's get another shot. Like Morin last year, 47 games with the Angels. He was 4-2. Again, the runner's moving. Line drive down the left field line. That's going to be in for extra bases. Desmond scores, and Elvis going to hang on at first. Joy got to the ball in a hurry. It looked like Elvis was going to have a double, but he will settle for an RBI single. He's yelling across the diamond to Rougned Odor. He said, "Why didn't you score? I need another RBI." But he got one as Desmond scored.
But Morin just didn't want to throw him many fastballs. That's a changeup that Elvis hits. He threw him a changeup earlier in the count. He threw him a 3-1 slider. Threw him a fastball then that Elvis just kind of checked his swing on. He came back with a 3-2 changeup. Elvis drove in an insurance run.
So a 7-3 Ranger lead. Now they have a season high of 9 hits tonight and 7 runs scored. Here's Chirinos, who's 1 for 2. Towering fly ball down the right side. Calhoun crossing the line into foul territory and makes the catch for the final out. But Elvis gets it done. A 2-out single. Plates Ian Desmond. A run on 1 hit and 2 men are left. Stretch time in Anaheim. Rangers 7, Angels 3. Our AT&T high-speed internet replay of the night. How about A.J. Griffin doing a great job working through the Angels' orders. An excellent job in 6 innings of work, mixing up speeds, mixing up locations, and for the most part had the Angels pretty much off stride, especially the middle of the order. Didn't get a whole lot of damage done. And A.J. Griffin, our high-speed replay of the night, brought to you by AT&T, and he gives way to Tom Wilhelmsen as we head to the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah, you love the way he finished off, Buzz. Retired 8 guys in a row, finished up strong. And then when he was mixing it up and hitting his spots, they weren't doing much.
Yeah. And he limited the damage tonight. You know, we talk about that a lot, but well, when you see it, you can understand what it's all about, because single runs in the second, third, and fourth, and in all three of those innings, there was an opportunity for the Angels to really break through, and Griffin wouldn't allow that to happen.
Yep, exactly right.
Well, here's Wilhelmsen. The first pitch to Cliff Pennington is in for ball one. A.J. Griffin, first time through the rotation, filling in the number 5 spot. Another quality start. Rangers have had 4 quality starts in the 5 outings from their starting pitching. For those of you who like that statistic, the quality start.
Yeah, Derek would have had a great chance for one last night. He had a 30-pitch 5th inning where he couldn't find the strike zone, walked a couple of guys. Otherwise, he was pitching well enough to have one, too.
Cole Hamels, of course, opening day had the 7-inning quality start. Martin Perez followed him, as did Colby Lewis. 3 balls and a strike now to Pennington. Pennington, the number 9 hitter, trying to get aboard here to start the 7th. You know, Escobar, the third baseman, will follow. Time call. Tom Wilhelmsen, the 32-year-old out of Tucson, Arizona. Rangers got him in a trade for Leonis Martin with the Seattle Mariners over the winter. There is a strike to fill the count. .66, goes at 220 pounds. Wilhelmsen with the payoff pitch. Ball 4.
That wasn't in the game plan.
Back to those bad walks. We'll talk about that in a second. First of all, let's send it back to Dana Larson for a Chevy game break. All right, Dana, thank you. What a night for the young man from Southlake. Stripling, and that will go down in his scrapbooks. And he's going to have a lot of good stuff to put in there about this one, about his major league debut.
Well, Tom walks Pennington, and then Yunel Escobar goes up there and swings at a slider out of the strike zone. Thank you very much. I hit a ground ball to shortstop.
Yeah, there you go. See a guy do that, and it might be the walking definition of a free swinger, huh?
Yep.
And this one, he lines the left toward the line. Desmond, nice running catch, and Ian has to go into a slide with his momentum taking him toward the corner. Nice play by Ian Desmond.
Yeah, it looked like he got a great jump on that ball. That's when we get the advanced metrics, we'll be able to quantify what kind of a jump an outfielder gets on a ball. But it would appear that Ian got an excellent jump and ran that ball down. Lunges for it. Comes up throwing. A nice play by Ian in left field. Didn't take him long to get accustomed to playing the outfield.
You know, it almost looked like he went into that dive just to stop himself so he could get up and throw.
Back up, yeah.
Well, 1 out. A very nice play by Ian Desmond. C.J. Crone with his second at bat of the night. Crone came in for the injured Daniel Nava. Nava, by the way, lacerated his left index finger, was the report from the Angels clubhouse. And he's listed it day to day, but Tom, as you mentioned, a left-handed thrower, if there's a cut there and he's got stitches, I don't know how in the world he'd be able to throw it all.
Yeah, as painful as it looked when he was being treated out there at third base, it might be a while before he can play in the field. Might be able to swing a bat. Keep that finger off the bat.
1 ball, no strikes to Crone. Good breaking ball from Wilhelmsen.
Crone's got some power. He's a free swing. He's a lot like Mark Trumbo. Trumbo had some power, right-hand hitter, big swing. You get Trumbo to chase. Trumbo hit a lot of balls out of the strike zone, and so does Crone.
Yeah, especially against the Rangers. Crone is a .360 lifetime hitter in 17 games against the Rangers. Beltre to Odor, a jump throw, and they turned it.
What a play.
That is about as athletic a turn for a second baseman as you're going to see.
He disappeared on Cliff Pennington.
Rugnet went straight up in the air like a jack-in-the-box. Wow.
I think Pennington thought he was anticipating some contact at second base.
5-4-3. Put the springs on. 7-3 Rangers. Schedule, and after losing last night, Rangers have the lead here tonight. Finish up with 2 more against the Angels and up the coast to take on the Mariners for 3. See if they can get a little payback for the opening series in Arlington. Then it's back home to take on the Orioles and the Houston Astros. Make their first visit into Arlington starting the 19th. Top of the 8th inning, Rangers leading 7-3. Top of the Ranger order, Delino to Shields and Mike Morin back to the hill. Deals strike 1. Morin got the last 2 outs, the last out, excuse me, of the 7th inning. Rangers did add on a run thanks to the RBI single by Elvis. Delino slapping it foul to the right. To Shields, a walk and a single. 1 for 3 officially. He has scored 2 runs. He has stolen 2 bases tonight. Well, if you are of the opinion that the leadoff man is the igniter of the offense, Delino to Shields has been every bit the spark plug tonight. He turned arsonist here this evening to ignite. 1-2 pitch. Morin has the sign, back to the plate. Base hit to right field.
There we go.
Delino Shields got an off-speed pitch that stayed up. He just slapped that right through the hole. He has his 2nd hit tonight.
Pitch up and out over the plate. Did a nice job of leveling his swing and lining that ball into right field instead of popping it up. He was putting some base runners on there tonight.
And they've reached double figures this evening. They did that with regularity in the spring, but once they left Arizona, things changed a little bit for everybody. Not so tonight for the Rangers. 10 hits tonight, 7 runs. And here is Shin-Soo Choo, who has one of those 10 hits. Ooh, Delino, boy, he's had a lot of close ones. He's pushing the envelope as far as the lead, and it looked like he might have hurt himself getting back to first on that one. Delino with those pant legs pulled way up high. Inching off the bag once again. Chu eyeballs that changeup in the dirt. 1 ball, no strikes. Shin-Su's base hit was a bunt single back in the first inning. It was part of that streak of 5 consecutive Ranger hitters that reached base to start the game. Rangers got off to that fast 3-run first inning start and have not looked back. Angels have made it tough at times. They have scored in 3 separate innings, but just 1 run in each inning. Rangers have kept pace, scoring in 3 other innings besides the first, and outscoring the Angels by 1 in those 3 innings. And again, Delino having to dive back to the outside part of the bag. Here are the numbers for the Ranger hitters tonight. 7 runs on 10 hits. First 4 games, they had only 13 runs on 19 hits. Not quite Padre-esque, who went the first 30 innings without scoring and then put 13 up tonight. But close enough. Two and 0 to Chu. Now 3 and 0. Just the mere presence, I think, of Delino to Shields at first is.
He's keeping them close. He's just not throwing strikes to Shin-Su.
And credit Chu for eyeballing him too. He's not going to make it easy on Morin. Now with a 3-0 count, the infield goes into a full overshift all the way around to the right. And Morin comes back with the obligatory strike on 3 and 0. Carlos Perez had to go out in front of home plate and remind guys that, hey, there's nobody on the left side of the diamond close to third base. If there's a ball that the third baseman Escobar has to go for up the middle, somebody's got to get to third. So don't be throwing the ball there automatically. Because I'm the one that's going to be charged going over to third base to get him. And with Delino running at first, there's a very good possibility that he would scamper all the way around there very quickly. Ball 4. It's a moot point now as the Rangers have runners at first and second, nobody out. And Prince Fielder coming up. That is the 7th walk issued to the Rangers tonight to go along with their 10 hits. Prince Fielder has 2 of those 7 walks. He also has 1 of the 10 hits for an RBI single in the first inning. 1 for 2 officially tonight. First pitch is in right at the knees. Good changeup. That is Morin's signature pitch. And with that pitch last year, Morin had 41 strikeouts in 35 innings at the big league level. 1-2. Got Prince's timing all messed up right now for those 3 pitches. Got him swinging. A big strikeout for Morin. Still first and second with one away now for Adrian Beltre.
A good example of keeping the hitter off balance by mixing up fastballs and changeups. You got a good enough fastball, low 90s, to go along with that changeup. You keep it where you want to and mix it up like that. That really can throw a hitter's timing off.
Here's Adrian, 1 for 4 with an RBI base hit. Left center field, Trout and Choi. It's Trout. 2 gone. Third time tonight that Beltre has given Mike Trout some work in center. Mitch Moreland now will step to the plate. That RBI double for Mitch came back in the first inning. He had a bullet that glanced off the bag and over the first baseman at that time, Ji-Man Choi. For Mitch, his first RBI of the year. And he takes the changeup that floats in for strike 1. He's got a couple of runners on base, so he could, with an extra base hit, played a couple more. DeShields right at the bottom of your screen, getting his lead from second. He is trailed by Shin-Soo Choo. Good look at the Angel semi-shift. Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, just a little bit to the third base side of second. 1-2. Mike Morin will turn 25 on May 3rd this year out of Leawood, Kansas. We'll try the 1-2 pitch again. Outfield plays Moreland just about straight away, maybe a step to the right. Not much. Trout, you can see, maybe a step or two to the right side, and down on strikes. Mitch Moreland, a couple of strikeouts in the inning. Rangers can't do anything with a couple of base runners. Bottom of the 8th coming up. Rangers 7 and the Angels 3 on Fox Sports Southwest. bottom of the 8th, and the new slide rule is in effect, the new interpretation, and it's had an impact on baseball. And Tom, this happened today.
Yeah, this is Rasmus from Houston sliding past the bag, unable to keep his hand on the bag. He gets called for an illegal slide, and it turns into a double play, and that's a good call. Here's a play in the Ranger game. Cliff Pennington slides, stops in front of the bag. Rugnet, watch Rugnet. He's jumping in case he slides past the bag. That's a clean slide. Rangers turn a double play. Now, Pennington could have slid past second base. He started his slide in time. As long as he can keep his hand on the bag, he could have slid a little bit past second. And if he did, Rugnet would have jumped right over him.
How about that pick by Elvis Andrus?
The Rangers throwing some defense at him.
Wow. That ball was scorched by Mike Trout. And Elvis just picked it like he was kind of a walk in the park.
It's a one-hop smash. Yeah, he did. Made it look easy.
Yeah.
I was saying, see, I can do that too, big guy. Just like you.
Now, you knew very good and well if he'd missed that Adrian would have gotten all over him. So that's the important thing. You got to keep the harmony on the left side of the infield.
They'll work it out.
No doubt. Now, one away, here's Albert Pujols, who is 0 for 3 tonight. Tom Wilhelmsen.
One of the things the Rangers talked about in spring training was stretching some of their pitchers to at least a couple of innings. Wilhelmsen's a guy that has done it before, and they know can do it. He's going to get a chance to pitch a couple innings tonight. They've got a lot of late inning guys that are more accustomed to throwing one inning. But over the course of a season, occasionally some of them are going to have to pitch two. One of those nights for Wilhelmsen, and so far so good.
Beltre handles that ground ball by Pujols, 2 up, 2 away. Looks like Pujols might have gotten jammed a little bit by Wilhelmsen. Now Cole Calhoun will come up. Yeah, and you look at the Ranger bullpen, and one of the things, in case you missed it earlier today, that Justin Ruggiano was designated for assignment when A.J. Griffin was put on the active roster. There had to be a 40-man roster move, and there happened to be Ruggiano. A lot of people say, well, why him? Why didn't you send Phil Klein out? He was the extra reliever that the Rangers had kept to make it 8 men in the bullpen. And Jeff Bennett said, quite honestly, we've had to use the bullpen too much, where he would have been short down there.
Yeah, for some reason, A.J. wasn't able to pitch more than a couple innings tonight. They had to have Klein here available. Tollison had pitched a couple of days in a row. Dyson had thrown a lot of pitches. So they had some guys that they really wouldn't have wanted to pitch in a game where the starter was out that early. Generally, your starter goes out that early, you're in for a long night.
1 ball, 1 strike to Calhoun. 1-2. Yeah, and early in the year like this, the last thing you want to do is have to tax your bullpen and have them worn out for the next month.
Well, Tom has a chance to get through 2 innings with right around 20 pitches, which would be efficient work.
Calhoun 2 for 3 tonight. I'm trying to drop that big hook on the outside corner and found the back door closed. Two and 2. Now full count. If Calhoun can reach here in the 8th inning, Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, would be next to face Wilhelmsen. Payoff pitch. Lost him. Second walk issued by Wilhelmsen. His couple innings of work. Andrelton Simmons coming up, 1 for 3 this evening. Had a double back in the 2nd inning. Other than that, a slide to center field a couple of times. The big pickups in the offseason by the Angels. One of the few that they did, as a matter of fact. Eric Ibar going to the Braves, among others. Andrelton Simmons, younger and a stellar defensive player. Offense hasn't developed the way the Braves had hoped it would, so they were willing to trade him for Ibar. Tony Barnett starting to loosen in the Ranger bullpen. You can't get much better defense at shortstop than what Andrelton Simmons gives to you.
Not sure Calhoun's going to try to steal second right here. But in case he wanted to, he's going to keep him close.
Simmons shooting one through the right side. That's a base hit. Well, a walk with 2 outs. A base hit to right. 2 on for Ji-Man Choi. Simmons a 2-hit night.
Well, it looks like in this game anyway, Simmons is going up there to try to slash the ball to right field. He had the double in the second inning, a smash off top of Mitch's glove before he went that way. Did a nice job of it right there. Had the hole to shoot for with Mitch holding the runner on. Went that way and drove a high ground ball into right.
Choi is a switch hitter. He will turn around and bat from the left side against the right-hander, Will Humpson. Doug Brocail going to make a quick visit to the mound. Yeah, the way that Doug pops out there, he's not going to get caught by the 30-second clock.
Must have as much time as he can to talk.
Yeah.
Not going to waste it walking out there.
Well, 2 on with 2 out. Choi tonight has popped out 3 times. Twice to Beltre. One spectacular play by Adrian. Will Humpson to the plate. Got him out in front on the front foot. Choi pounds it foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. Rangers in a shift to the right, not an overshift. He's playing as a pull hitter from the left side. 2-1 now. To the outfield in a similar fashion. About 3 or 4 steps to the right side. Angels with Calhoun at second, Simmons at first. Tom Wilhelmsen trying to prevent any damage here in the 8th inning. 3-1. Tom, you talked about Choi and the reputation for having a good eye. He has shown that.
Yeah, he walked 11 times in spring training. He brought that good eye with him. He's a Rule 5 draft pick. His chance to stay in the big leagues.
Ball 4. That loads him up. Carlos Perez coming to the plate. And he is not going to face Tom Wilhelmsen. Jeff Bannister on his way to the mound. He's got the hook with him and going to bring in Tony Barnett, right-hander, to face Carlos Perez, who represents the tying run in this ball game. So the Angels making some noise. Rangers trying to change the tune here in inning number 8. Pitching change underway. Tony Barnett coming on. We're going to take a timeout on Fox Sports Southwest. Final game of a 3-game set against these Angels in Globe Life Park, and the first 7,500 kids 13 and younger will receive a Prince Fielder wiffle ball and bat set. That's courtesy of McDonald's. You can get your tickets at TexasRangers.com, or you can call 972-RANGERS. Well, the Angels making some two-out noise here in the 8th inning. So far, the Rangers have had an answer to any Angel uprising. Now Tony Barnett brought from the bullpen to inherit a bases-loaded situation. Carlos Perez is the hitter, and he does represent the tying run. So Tony Barnett, 32-year-old right-hander, in facing the tying run. Bases full, 2 outs. One ball, no strikes. Perez tonight has walked and grounded out a couple of times. We were talking about the number of walks that the Angels gifted the Rangers, 7 of them. Rangers have returned the favor in almost equal fashion, 5 walks.
Yeah, quick inning this inning, and you might have been able to avoid the middle of the order. Still can. A few more base runners, and eventually you run back to Trout and Pujols, which you definitely want to avoid in the 9th inning.
Barnett with the 1-1 pitch. 2-1. Perez 1 for 8 in the young season. Barnett, who last worked on Wednesday, trying to get out of this jam. 3 balls and a strike.
Just zero in on the middle of the plate right now. Don't worry about the low and outside corner. They can put the ball in play somewhere.
Well, there was one thing that the Rangers very impressed about Tony Barnett when they saw him, scouted him in Japan. He became a closer over there. Base on balls were not an issue at all. That's the one thing that you can't counteract. There's no defense for a walk. 3-1, the count to Perez. Now 3-2 as Perez taking all the way. So with 2 outs, we'll wind up the runners. All 3 will be off and moving with the next pitch. If Perez is able to extend this inning, Cliff Pennington is in the on-deck circle. Runners on the move, the payoff pitch. To center field, Delino DeShields has a bead drawn on it, makes the catch. And Tony Barnett comes in, and after a little bit of a tenuous outing, gets the final out. 3 left aboard for the Angels. We go to the 9th. Rangers by 4.
of the Angels as we head to the top of the 9th here at the Big A in Anaheim. This is the second of a 4-game series between these two teams. Game 3 will take place tomorrow. Same place, different time, a little bit earlier tomorrow as we get things going at 8 o'clock Texas time. There you see the pitching principals in Game 3. Cole Hamels versus Garrett Richards. Some good numbers on both sides of that one. Should be a good Game 3. Hopefully the Rangers even things up tonight. This series goes 1-1, and then we play a couple more here in Anaheim, guys. Thanks to the folks at AT&T High-Speed Internet for getting us ready for Game 3.
All right, and thank you. And there is tomorrow evening's pitcher, Cole Hamels, a matchup of opening day starters tomorrow night. First things first, though, Rangers would like to add a couple of runs here in the 9th inning. They're going to have to do it against hard-throwing right-hander Fernando Salas. Salas, a veteran reliever, a 30-year-old, native of Mexico. Came over to the Angels with a trade to the St. Louis Cardinals, a big trade for Peter Borges. David Freese also came over in that deal. Salas last night had a blown save, allowed the Rangers to tie that ball game up. Big high hopper down to Crone, and Desmond is going to be out number 1. He 0 for 3 with a couple of walks and a couple of runs scored tonight. Now Rougned Odor. That trade happened with the Angels and the Cardinals after the 2013 season. Peter Borges, Randall Grichuk went to St. Louis, and Freese and Fernando Salas came to the Angels. Salas last year, 72 appearances for the Angels. He was 5-2 with a 4.24 ERA. Odor 1 for 3 tonight. Popped in foul territory. Long run for a trio of Angels. That's down there by the tarpaulin. I would say the little used tarpaulin, but with the amount of rain that's been the last few days here, they had to get it out of storage.
Sounds like they might need it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Rain's a little bit stronger in the forecast tomorrow. Hopefully it'll just be a light rain. Won't affect the ball game. But they say it's got a pretty good chance of raining tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll keep it away as best we can. Pretty good fastball, and Rougned can't get on top of it. He has gone on strikes. 2 up, 2 away. Elvis will be next. Jake Diekman, left-hander, loosening in that bullpen now. One of the things the guys in the ball club were talking about when asked about the difficulties for the bullpen, they said, hey, you know, it would help them an awful lot if we went out, meaning the everyday players, and gave them a few runs to work with. They've been in close ball games the whole time, and you know, something goes wrong, and all of a sudden it snowballs. It goes downhill quickly. Said a 3 or 4 run lead would be nice. And they've done that tonight. They have a 7-3 advantage. AJ Griffin, 6 strong innings here tonight. 6 hits and 3 runs. 1-2 to Elvis. Elvis singles in each of his last 2 times up. 2 for 4 tonight. Two and 2. Now 3-2. Salas trying to work inside. He has run the count full. So Elvis with 2 outs trying to get aboard Robinson Chirinos. all set to hit if Elvis keeps the inning alive. It's out of play back in the seats. Simmons behind the bag. Good throw, got him. Oh, that's some great defense. One shortstop taking an at-bat away from his counterpart. 3 up, 3 down. Bottom of the ninth coming up. Rangers leading 7-3.
On top of the Angels as we head to the bottom of the ninth here at the Big A in Anaheim. This is the second of a 4-game series between these two teams. Game 3 will take place tomorrow. Same place, but a little bit earlier time. Things get going at 8 o'clock Texas time. There you see the pitching principals in this one, Cole Hamels and Garrett Richards. Some favorable numbers for both of those guys. Game 3 tomorrow, and thanks to the folks at AT&T High-Speed Internet for getting us ready for Game 3.
All right, Em, and thanks for getting us ready for the bottom of the ninth inning here tonight. Cole Hamels would love to take the mound after a Ranger win. And Jake Diekman on for his 4th appearance of the year. Diekman worked in the first 3 games, and he has yet to be scored upon. Cliff Pennington starting things off. Switch hitter batting now from the right side takes a strike from Diekman. Pennington, a walk, a triple, and a ground out. 1 out of 2 officially. Facing the 29-year-old right-hander from Nebraska. Good breaking ball.
Hey, you take the first one for a strike, and just subconsciously you don't want to take another one for a strike. You got a fastball to hit that you took, then you have to hit that hard slider down and in. You can't lay off it. Now you're in trouble.
You got another slider and able to foul that off.
Pennington launched one in the 4th inning. That triple he hit to dead center field. Probably one of the longer balls he's hit to dead center field. Drove in a run, made it a fairly close game at the time.
Jake with another 0-2 pitch. Here's the fastball, and Pennington pretty defensive, just trying to stay alive up there, and he does just that.
That was one of those innings you were talking about with A.J. Griffin. After the triple drove in a run, he limited the damage and got a couple of outs.
Well, that has been the important thing tonight. Rangers able to escape the big inning. Call strike 3.
Oh, that's a perfect pitch, just touching the strike zone. Not a very good pitch for a hitter to try to hit, though.
Pennington shaking his head.
Yeah, if you're Pennington, you don't feel like this is even close to the plate. Actually, it is, though, according to our Fox track.
Yep.
It's right touching the corner. About as tough a pitch as you're going to get.
Yeah, he'd seen 2 off-speed pitch, 2 breaking balls, and the only fastball he saw was away. And all of a sudden, that fastball starts inside, and yeah, it makes you flinch a little bit, I would think.
Take a pretty good hitter to hit that pitch.
So 1 away, base is empty. Back to the top of the order. Escobar 0 for 4 this evening. He lined to left field last time. A great running catch by Ian Desmond took extra bases away from him. Shoots one the other way. Moreland to the dirt. Comes up with it, steps on the bag for out number 2. Now the Rangers playing very solid defense tonight. Some spectacular plays, but most importantly, a lot of great routine plays. That was far from routine for Mitch. Able to handle it, and it's a big out number 2. And C.J. Cron, with 2 outs, the base is empty, will come up. And Cron, a very important guy. If you can get him, you don't have to face Trout and Pujols till tomorrow. Cron with his 3rd at bat of the night takes strike 1.
Jake pumping in some strikes. A lot of guys have had trouble throwing strikes in this game. A lot of walks, a lot of long counts. 7 out of 8 strikes for Jake, though.
Nothing in 2. Rangers trying to snap the 3-game losing streak. They have not started the season by losing 4 of the first 5. And that's what would have happened tonight had they not gotten out of here with a W. One and 2. Count evens. Rangers with a win tonight would even the series this year against the Angels. They've had trouble against the Halos the last couple of years. The Rangers just 12 and 27. Two-two pitch. Got him swinging. And that, for Jake Diekman and the Rangers, is a winner. A 3 up, 3 down, overpowering inning for Jake Diekman. Just exactly what the doctor ordered for the Rangers. And the 3-game mini streak on the losing side is a thing of the past. So Diekman closes it out. A.J. Griffin gets his first win since September the 12th of 2013. And he comes back to the scene of his last major league start, which was that September in this ballpark. And Jake Diekman doing the honors, getting C.J. Cron to end the ball game and hand the Rangers and A.J. Griffin a 7-3 win. So the Rangers 7 runs on a season high 10 base hits tonight. Angels held to 3 runs on 7 hits. Only error of the ball game committed by the Angels. And congratulatory handshakes all around as Jeff Bannister, the coaching staff, say, nice going, guys. Now we can get back down to business of winning some ball games, putting a streak on the other side of the ledger in play. Rangers will take the field tomorrow night here at 8 o'clock Texas time, with the mark evened against the Angels at 1-1 this year, and give it to Cole Hamels for his 2nd start of the season. You have a matchup of opening day pitchers with Hamels facing Garrett Richards. So the Rangers 7-3 victors tonight. Let's head down to check in with Emily Jones and a very happy A.J. Griffin.
Thank you very much, A.J. It's been a little while. Is it just like riding a bike to get back out there?
I mean, it was 2 years of hard work and everything, but I've just been trying to get back out there and be able to do what I love, which is pitching.
When you knew you were going to get this opportunity, how important was it for you to maximize it?
I mean, that's all you get in life, really, is opportunities and stuff. And when they're presented to you, you want to go out there and just relish it and do what you can with it. And tonight I felt like I battled through some stuff, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, the guys in the booth were calling it a gritty performance. You know how you battled through those things. How were the in-inning adjustments for you?
I was just trying to get ahead of guys and just make my pitches. Robbie did a great job. The defense was picking me up and making some great plays. And, you know, I was just trying to throw strikes and pitch my game, and it worked out for us.
How much did it relax you when the offense comes out hot early, puts up a 3-spot in the first inning? Does that allow you to relax just a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. But you got to go out there and keep making your pitches. They got a good lineup over there, and you can't ever get in cruise mode like that. You got to go out there and keep battling, and I was just trying to keep us in the game the whole time.
AJ, congratulations on the win. We appreciate the time. We'll send it back up to you guys.
All right, Emily. Well, A.J. Griffin, his first win in almost 2.5 years, so nice to see that. We'll total things up for you. Come back to Angel Stadium right after this. Rate your win on Fox Sports Southwest.